Good evening, race fans. 3-Wide TV taking you into the Wayback Machine to Chicagoland Speedway as the Nostalgia 300 about to get going in just a few minutes time with qualifying and then the race. It is Chris Curtis and Mason Highball in the broadcast booth with you. Mason, how you doing on a very gorgeous night at Chicagoland?
I'm doing fantastic, Chris. It's absolutely fantastic to be back in here in the booth with yourself and Carlos Acosta in the production booth as well, pushing all the buttons, making everything happen for tonight. But man, oh man, am I excited to be here for the Nostalgia 300. We are taking 300 miles, 200 laps here at Chicagoland. Chris, it's going to be an exciting one. We're actually taking things a little bit back, as like you said, and it's even in the name, we're racing in ARCA cars here today as well. So it's going to be an exciting race and with a lot of familiar names that we've seen in the 100% Cup Series. So it's going to be quite a fantastic race to witness here today.
Yeah, absolutely, along with a few names that we haven't seen very often as well. But looking back, 2011 to 2017, this track was actually home to the Camping World 400 first race of the Cup Series playoffs. And it is home to the Nostalgia 300 at this point as well, as Chicagoland was dropped from the 2021 Cup Series schedule at that point. But either way, we are just about getting going for qualifying. 5 minutes of open qualifying to get some times, get some pole, or get the pole sitter after everything is done, and we will be getting ready to go. But yeah, like you said, 200 laps on a very straightforward track. It would seem easy to learn, hard to master at Chicagoland.
Yeah, absolutely. This track is definitely one of the more tricky ones. Like you said, Chris, it's very simple in its layout, but just given how this track is laid out as far as how the track actually feels with these cars, it's very interesting. Like you said, it's it takes quite a bit of time to master and become a good driver here at Chicagoland. But so far, we have Kevin Steele, Adam Benefiel, Mars Hickenbottom, Nick Terrell, John Crutchley, Preston McRae, Raymond Root, Bryson Hicksonball, all on track currently. DeMars Hickenbottom actually not on track. I was mistaken in making that statement there, but everyone doing so far an excellent job. We were in practice watching these guys make some laps around, and so far seems a lot of these drivers are very comfortable with the car here at Chicagoland. We saw a couple mishaps here and there, but I think that's just a lot of these guys getting used to things, getting a feel for the race and how things are going to progress tonight, Chris. But it's going to be a fantastic race here, I think, and I think these guys are quite excited, like you mentioned earlier before we started today's broadcast.
Yeah, open qualifying, I've seen lap times in the 31s. On practice, we were seeing 30-second lap times, so it'd be fun to see when they start pulling those out of the hat. But just finding adjustments on the car, finding out what works, how loose do you want it, how tight do you want it, how aggressive do you want to be on these straights, which can get pretty wide. You can go probably three wide at least somewhat comfortably, as long as you have people around you that you trust. And if you really need to squeeze it 4 wide on some of these turns and into the straightaway entrances, so it could be some pretty aggressive driving. We also have no stages today. It's 200 laps straight through.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be 2 hours, roughly 2 hours, 2.5 hours ish, if you want to account for cautions, if there happen to be any. It's going to be quite the long race for these guys. We're definitely going to see some green flag pit stops as well. I believe we have, I think it was 5 sets of tires. And another thing that's a good thing to note as well is that these guys are only allowed 13 incident points during this race. Now, if you are not familiar with what incident points are in iRacing, basically if you mess up enough times and you accumulate enough points, you can be told to put the car into pit road, and that's the end of your race. So 13 points in a 200 lap race. These guys are definitely going to have to be on their A game here tonight, and I think these guys are definitely going to have their work cut out for them. Chris, like you said, these cars are definitely going to be seeing probably some 3 wide action here, maybe even a consistent amount of 2 wide action here quite consistently. We have quite the handful of drivers here that I think are going to be very competitive here in the early stage of this race.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. 114 degrees is track temp right now. That will contribute to a decent amount of tire wear. As you mentioned, I believe 5 sets, including the ones they have on, as far as tires that are available to them today. And we're looking probably about, I'd say, 55 to 65 laps is going to be your optimal fuel window if you're running green the entire time. So that will be something to keep an eye on, as we'll probably start to see them go in to the pits about a third of the way through, maybe even a little earlier than that, as they get their first pit stops done. So fun to see where everybody ends up. They're also, for a little bit of nostalgic reasons, they're running some mid-2000s paints as well, the liveries on the cars. So that's something to keep an eye on. You see some of the classic ones, as that should be pretty good. The Kevin Steele, I believe, is running the AC Delco car. Haven't seen that one in quite a long time. That's just an example of what they're doing in Chicagoland tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken as well, if you pay attention closely to some of the cars, you may recognize some of the old NASCAR game contingencies that were seen on some of the cars in those early games from NASCAR in the series. But our qualifying has wrapped up here. We are going to get ready to race as our grid is getting ready to line up here. Chris, I'm going to hand it off to you and line up our drivers here for tonight.
Absolutely. Grid looks like this. Winner of the Turtle Juice Pole Award. That's $10 in the race pricing. That is going to be Preston McRae, who ended up with the top spot. Aaron Smith in the 2. That's your first row. Second row, 3-4 is Casey Carrington and Bryson Hicksonbaugh. 5-6, that's row 3 is Raymond Root and Bryce Hoffman. 7-8 is Brian Mabry and Nick Terrell. And 9-10, looks like Dale Lucas Jr. And then the number 2 of Kevin Steele is who we're looking at. Then I'll give it to you, Mason, for the rest.
And making up row 6 in the number 11 spot, Sid Shishian. In the number 12 spot, John Crutchley. Making up row number 7, John Powell in the number 13 spot with Adam Benefiel in the number 14. In the 8th row, we have the 15. In the 15th position of Damaris Hickenbottom, 16, Cody Bird. And rounding out our last row, 17, Andre Granbush, our fellow commentator. And last but not least, Dustin Montgomery in the number 18 spot.
Not sure who decided that he was going to race, but apparently he decided he wanted to get on direct today. He may actually join us if things don't go according to his plan a little bit later on in this race. But looking at about a 2-hour race when everything's said and done. Pace cars on the track, but they're not quite going just yet. We'll get things underway here in pretty short order, but a nice pole for Preston McRae. That's the 53 car. Aaron Smith next to him. A couple of 1-2s. Aaron Smith, not one we usually see in the 100% Cup Series, as is Casey Carrington in the 3 spot as well. That's inside row 2. So there's quite a few names here that we actually haven't seen much of in the 100% Cup, but there's also quite a few Preston McRae, Bryson Hicksonbaugh, Raymond Root, and others that we have. So those that are familiar and have followed that should recognize those names pretty much immediately.
Absolutely, yeah. If you are a fan of the 3Wide TV broadcasting channel and have watched the 100% Cup Series, you are going to be familiar with a lot of names here on track here today. And I gotta say, it's quite amazing to see all these guys coming here together in their off season to put on a nostalgic race and just have a good time together and bring in a few faces that we haven't seen before. And actually, speaking of which, Casey Carrington in the number 37 is a racer that I am familiar with. He is actually, I wouldn't say a racer with Team Goon Squad, but he has been in the community and has made his presence known. And I'm going to be rooting for Casey tonight and hoping that he's able to keep that number 3 spot, maybe even work his way up in the field even further. So good luck to you, Casey, if you are watching this here tonight. But Chris, I got to say, this field is looking to be very, very, very pretty. I got to say, these liveries are looking very fantastic.
They are absolutely. The liveries are nice. The paints are very nice. The drivers are good as well. Should be a fairly clean race all told. May see some yellow flags out from time to time, but there are some extras going on with this race that we definitely want to get known. We have obviously the thoughts that you have points for places up to the top 5 as we go green flag for the first time, but you also have some contingency things going on as well with this particular race. Things that happen just during the race that you might want to keep an eye on. The Turtle Juice Pole Award went to Preston McRae, who is now gone behind Aaron Smith for the 1 spot. And then there's a couple other ones. The DC Spark Hard Charger Award, the Knee High Septic Stinking Up the Race Award, to name a couple. We'll get into more of them as the race continues.
Absolutely, and that's just one of the great ones here to list off for tonight. And yeah, a lot of these drivers are going to have an opportunity to win some of these contingencies and take away some cash, even if they don't necessarily win the race tonight. But everyone is going to be putting on the best performance that they possibly can. And right now, we have Aaron Smith and Preston McRae out in front, duking it out for first place currently, with Casey Carrington in third, Raymond Root in fourth, and Bryson Hixenbaugh in fifth. And these guys are kind of finding themselves kind of all over the track. You can see it on your screen there.
Yeah.
These guys kind of, as they go into the turn, they spread out a little bit, and then they wander back into a line. I wonder if that's just a preference of where they prefer to be on the track, if they're finding better grip on a certain part of the track. It seems some guys are finding more grip on the low line, some are finding it better on the high line. I wonder if that's coming into play here, Chris. What do you think?
It's very possible. I mean, you look at Casey Carrington, he was looking for the pass for a while, or I'm sorry, not Casey Carrington, Preston McRae was looking for the pass on Aaron Smith and was able to get it by going low, and now he's playing good defense up high. But it looks like these two are going to be trading back and forth. Just talking about the lead for a second. These, it seems that the low is good for Preston McRae, but not so much for Aaron Smith. So that's something to keep an eye on. I was looking at the back of Casey Carrington as he's watching this battle unfold. But it looks like Preston McRae starting to get a good angle and starting to get a good lead out in front.
Yeah, absolutely. Preston's starting to look a lot more comfortable there in that number 53 machine, but Aaron Smith is absolutely trying whatever he can to close that gap between himself and that number 53 of Preston McRae. But it seems like Preston has just found something in the track that is allowing him to stick it out in front of that number 70 of Aaron Smith. And now Aaron has Casey Carrington in the number 37, slowly closing in a gap behind him, and there's a train of drivers following behind Casey as well. So there's quite the battle forming here in the front of the field, and I'm wondering if it's going to develop even further here, but only time will tell. Casey seems to be wanting to get closer and closer to Aaron Smith. He doesn't seem like he has just enough speed, but seems to be chipping away at that gap ever so slowly as he studies that pattern that Aaron Smith is making right now.
About 0.8 of a second separating first and fifth place so far in this race. Now it's more like a full second as Preston was able to get out a little bit more in front. But it's been a pretty competitive start for the first part of this race. Aaron Smith seems like to go down into that apron from the or on some of these the backside of some of these straights going turns. So I'm watching him, seeing how consistent that is. But since it only seems like one turn he's doing it on, and I believe it was turn 2, the end of turn 2 going into the apron.
Yeah, Aaron and Casey are they're sort of mimicking each other now at this point, but Aaron definitely was setting that example right off the get-go. You can see Casey now even dipping even farther down onto the apron than what Aaron was doing. So yeah, definitely some things being picked up there in the number 37 machine by Aaron. I almost wonder if he's starting to doubt himself a little bit. You can see him starting to come a little bit higher and higher off that apron, trying to get a little bit more speed to catch up to Preston McRae, because Preston is just absolutely, well, the gap is hasn't really increased too much. It's holding steady at about 0.41 seconds, and hasn't really closed too much. And as I say that, it drops about a tenth of a second. But yeah, Aaron Smith absolutely doing everything he possibly can. But another driver that I want to mention as well, Sean Powell in the number 28 machine, a possible driver to win a contingency here tonight. One of the awards, the DC Spark Hard Charger Award. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if you get the most positions gained during the race, you will receive this award. And currently, Sean Powell in 6th position currently has worked his way up 7. That is the most out of all of these drivers here tonight. Impressive work there from Sean in the number 28. Hopefully he'll be able to continue that progress and work his way up into the top 5.
Another mover and shaker as Adam Benefiel has moved up into the number 9 position from 14th in qualifying. Andre Granbush also moving up 4 spots into 13th. One contingency award to keep an eye on as well is the 3-wide TV Mama Didn't Raise No Quitter Award. Mama ain't raised no quitter. Apologies, Carlos in the back correcting me on it. That one is going to be given to the racer who finishes the race the most laps down. The qualifier is you have to be running at the finish to be able to get that award given to you. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. And it kind of gives a little bit of incentive for these racers, even if something doesn't go entirely right, to finish the race if at all possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I love to see those things happen for these drivers, for things like this. It's not always possible in sim racing to have events like this where you can have a payout pool that is as rewarding as this one here for the Nostalgia
Yeah.
300. But yeah, for everyone here racing, yeah, there's definitely a massive incentive to just stay out on track, keep racing, and just have a good time. And I think everyone here seems to be doing that. And I got to say, too, a lot of these guys have a lot of respect for one another, giving each other just plenty of room. We're not really seeing anybody being too aggressive, getting too close to one another, just playing dirty, so to speak. Everyone just doing a very excellent job there. And on your screen, Bryson Hixenbaugh, number 63, making a hard charge behind Raymond Root and Aaron Smith.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one. Raymond Root just took the 3 spot away from Aaron Smith. Casey Carrington just moved ahead into the 2 spot as well. So Aaron Smith seems to be losing some positions. That might be going to the confidence factor that you had a little bit earlier. And he is racing a bit looser than he would probably like, and that's taking some of his confidence away as a driver, and his lines not looking nearly as clean as some of the other cars that are up that way.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We've said it already a couple times in the beginning of the broadcast. It's just there's a lot of different strategies being played out here from all of these drivers. It doesn't really seem to be very consistent as far as who is taking what line going into these turns, and that this wide angle view that you can see here, you can see just the massive difference between every single driver. That the distance between them it's amazing. It's really amazing what these guys are doing, and just how unique it is. I have no words.
You can see it on the blimp cam. We just saw the racers are not far apart at all, but there's a lot of respect given, as you alluded to. And these guys are absolutely close to top level drivers, if not top level drivers already in the iRacing world, and you can see the confidence level, them able to work with each other, them knowing when to take the high line, when to take the low line. It's real fun, and every time they get a little bit close, you think, oh, they're going to lose it, and then they somehow just are able to save it. And I'm looking right at the Casey Carrington and Preston McRae battle up front, and they're going back and forth, and they're getting real close to touching doors, but they just somehow managed to keep away from each other just long enough, and Carrington on the inside is taking the 1 spot away from Preston McRae.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing too about these ARCA cars. These things are just they're really weird. How they race next to one another. They're very, very strange, and how they kind of support each other in the draft. And when you're door to door to one another, it's really, really strange how these cars kind of act around each other. I really can't put my finger on it, as I'm still sort of learning how these cars actually kind of function. But it's amazing how these things actually work. But Casey Carrington, impressive job there from the number 37 machine, able to pull out from the field seemingly effortlessly. And now he has Raymond Root, Preston McRae, Bryson Hixenbaugh kind of all in a pack, trying to catch up to him now. I've said that we kind of missed it there a little bit, the exchange between the drivers there for first place position, but it seems like Casey he's charging hard tonight. I think he wants to win tonight. Right now we are on lap 18 of 200, so it's still a lot of racing left for these guys here. And Chris, I'm very excited to see what these guys are going to do here, given that we don't have any stages here for this race.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing too, is there with no stages, everything is just straight through. We're going to have multiple, at least we hope, multiple green flag pit stops. And the way these guys are racing, everybody's racing fairly clean. And talk about Preston McRae, he was in the 1 spot. He's fallen all the way back to 5th at this point, with Powell, Hixenbaugh, Root, and Carrington in front of him. but a good start for Casey Carrington. And then Preston McRae was doing pretty well up there with Aaron Smith at the first part of this race, but in the first day 5%, but you get to 10% through, and he was not able to keep it as of right now. McRae and Smith, they started 1-2. They're back in 5-6 right now.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's almost going to play into a little bit of pit strategy here. We've already mentioned this before. We're going to see I believe, probably 2 green flag pit stops here, maybe even 3 if I'm not mistaken. It's 55 is the fuel window, as I've been told by our producers. So we'll see at least 4. Well, not 4. We'll see at least 3, maybe 4 if drivers don't feel like they can push the end of the race, so to speak. But yeah, I'm really curious to see now what some of these guys, now that Preston McRae has fallen back a little bit down to 5th place now, if he's going to kind of rely on this pit stop strategy, if he's going to rely on those fresher tires to be able to regain some of those lost positions. There's a lot of different things out at play here right now, and it's hard to keep track. These guys are all coming together for just a one-off race, and it's kind of hard to keep track of everything, Chris. Everything is, there's a lot of things to pay attention to, and there's a lot of action happening all over the track.
The more things change, the more things stay the same, though. You talk about the fuel window. Let's talk about the tires for a second. 114 degrees Fahrenheit on track, so it is definitely warm on the asphalt. And taking a look at it, this is an opportunity for tires to probably wear down. I'd say probably somewhere in that 45 to 60 lap range anyway. So yeah, fuels and tire are going to be out about the same time, you would think, at least pretty close. So you're going to get to see pretty consistent pit windows for just about every driver on track. And with the thought of there being 18 cars on track to start this race, doesn't seem like a lot of potential for a lot of yellow flags, or so it would seem right at the moment. Everybody being pretty clean so far, a lot of respect given, as mentioned, and a lot of room given just about through every turn.
Yeah, I think right now we're potentially gonna see a green flag run here for the most part. I think the opportunity for a caution to come out, it'll most likely come when that pit window starts to come around.
Yeah,
I think is when we'll start to see some drivers start to get a little wobbly, a little shaky as their cars start to get unsettled on those older tires. Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see here. But right now, Casey Carrington seems to be quite comfortable out in first place, leading the field rather extensively with nearly a 1-second gap to himself to Raymond Root in second place currently. So excellent job in that number 37 machine to Casey. And for all these drivers that were in the lead, Preston McRae being one of them, having to fall back all the way to 5th place, you got to wonder what makes this track so unique that it's hard to maintain that lead.
Oh, I think maybe not hard to maintain the lead, but something I'm noticing about the track with a lot of other tracks in what was a pretty consistent speed series, the speeds going into the turns, you only drop off anywhere from probably 8 to maybe 10 miles an hour in most of these turns. Not saying you can hold the throttle all the way through, but you don't have to, it's not as big a deal to try to run a little higher speeds through those. You see 180, and then you drop down 180 on the straights, and you drop down to probably max 169, 170 in the turns. So these guys are able to maintain pretty good speed, which also maintains a pretty good draft. If you can get close enough to some drafting partners, get yourself moving, especially on a hot track like this, that makes all the difference to trying to catch up to the leader in the pack.
Yeah, absolutely. And these cars are notorious for being able to draft extremely well. And if you've ever been in iRacing, and if you've ever been in an ARCA race, if you've ever found yourself outside the line of a train, you'll know how easy it is to find yourself in the back of the pack very, very quickly. These cars will pass you like a freight train if they are in a line and they are all drafting each other. It's amazing how quick these cars can go once they are forming a draft. I've seen these cars get up into excess of 190, almost 200 miles an hour, especially if you are at super speedways like Talladega. It's it's amazing what these cars can do, especially when you have a bunch of cars in a line. And right now, if you're Casey Carrington, you really only have to worry about the 3 cars behind you, and these guys aren't necessarily forming a line, so to speak. I mean, they a loose line, you could almost say, and I don't think the draft that they're kind of creating around themselves right now is really going to be anything to worry about for Casey at the moment, as it seems to be that they're closing in behind him. But once they get behind him, Casey's just going to have to keep driving and just keep steady. You know, once you're in that draft and you want to make a pass, it's very, very difficult. You're kind of relying on the driver in front of you to make a mistake and to do something wrong, or for them to just get into traffic, slow down. Any of these things can contribute to being able to overtake the driver ahead of you.
Raymond Root currently about half second behind Casey Carrington. He likes to tease like he's going to catch up to him in a fairly quick fashion, but then Carrington puts on the gas and is able to jump out in front. About a second between first and fourth at the moment. Sean Powell sitting in fourth. He's your DC Sparks Hard Charger Award winner so far, with up 9 spaces from his qualifying position at 13th. He's had a very good run of things, and Kevin Steele just behind him. He started in 10th. He's up 5 spots. Good start for him as well in that number 2 AC Delco car. But he's about 8 seconds back of our leader, Casey Carrington, up in front. And he started third and has left just about everybody in the dust as it sits right now.
Yeah, right now Casey seems to be the guy to beat at the moment, but Sean Powell in that number 28 machine, like you said, he's worked his way up 9 positions into 4th place currently. So Sean Powell is definitely going to be on a mission here. But I would like to take a moment just to talk about the number 15 of Andre Granbush. And just to mention the progress that he has made, up 4 positions from where he started today in today's race. And 13th currently battling it out with Cody Bird in the number 13, who is behind him. Andre doing a fantastic job just trying to keep it out in the race, and we will hear from him, I'm sure, in a few laps to get a word from him on the track conditions and just how the race is evolving from his perspective, and just get an idea of what it's like to be out on track behind the wheel.
Yep, and see if we can get him in a caution. If not, maybe we'll pull him in a green flag scenario. I did ask him about that earlier. He okayed it, so we may be able to do just that. But there's a lot of pretty recognizable names up front. Raymond Root, seen him on 100% Cup Series. Bryson Hicksonball, obviously. Kevin Steele, Preston McRae. But Casey Carrington up in front still. He's got about a half a second on Raymond Root. Root being in that 8 car. Casey Carrington in the 37. And that's where we're sitting about lap 34 of 200. Already almost a fifth of the way through this race. It's gone fairly quick. I mean, these guys are not wasting any time getting the pedal to the floor, and you see the shade start to come out. That should actually help the track conditions. And as I say that, the sun comes back out, and then we have hot asphalt all over again. So it could be a back and forth kind of day, as it seems right now.
Yeah, it seemed we had a blimp view of the track there for just a moment. It seems like we have some clouds rolling in through the track, so we're going to have some various spots of the track that are going to get a little bit colder than the rest of the track here. This is a 1.5 mile long track here at Chicagoland, so it's not exactly the smallest one in the world, so there's quite a bit of room on track here for the temperatures to have a little bit of variation here and there, but not too much. But it'll be enough for some of these guys to be able to take advantage of cooling their tires off if they're able to. But for the most part, this track is definitely cooking. You could probably cook an egg on it if you wanted to.
It might take a minute, but yeah, I think you're probably right. As the views come in above Chicagoland Speedway, again, last playoff race that was run here was 2017. The Camping World 400 was the original race ran here in that playoff scenario, and unfortunately taken down as far as off of the NASCAR schedule, but definitely a part of the nostalgia schedule as the mid-2000s are in season on 3-wide TV. But yeah, there's not a lot of space given. The decent grid being run right now. Not a ton of separation between the top cars so far. You're still looking at about 0.4 of a second between second and fourth place as it sits right at the moment. So things getting very close, and it actually looks like a chance for Bryson Hixenbaugh to maybe jump up and take the 2 spot. He's trying it on the inside, and Raymond Root not giving it up too easily. But it looks like Hixenbaugh may come out in front there and be able to take that 2 spot all told, as he is able to keep the inside.
Yeah, and only just barely, as well, as Raymond Root is still on the door. Almost seems to be that he has a little bit more speed, but Bryson Hixenbaugh taking that low line once again, going into, I believe this is turn 3, coming out of turn 4. Raymond Root on the outside, and Sean Powell as well in the mix. Not sure who to stay behind and who to draft behind, and it seems to be he's going to choose Raymond Root in this case, leaving Bryson Hixenbaugh on the low line. Yeah, these guys are definitely duking it out here for this second place position, and it seems like Sean Powell is eager to get in this action as well. And it's really anyone's game here. This action between these 3 drivers is developing rather quickly, as these guys are going to, it almost seems like they're going to try and take it 3 wide here, with Raymond Root on the outside, Sean Powell in the middle of the sandwich, and Bryson Hixenbaugh down low. But out of nowhere, Raymond Root drops it down in front of Sean Powell and sticks it out in front of Bryson Hixenbaugh. But Sean Powell able to work his way up to position 3 now, up 10 positions from where he started. I think he is definitely looking to get that hard charger award in the books today.
And he is actually closing that gap between him and Raymond Root, as well as Hixenbaugh drops back a little bit. There's a chance that Powell could take it on this turn. If he's able to, he could have Casey Carrington in front of him. It's about a second difference, but Casey Carrington's actually the beneficiary of all this. He's able to put a bigger gap between him and the second place car at the moment, just based on the fact that they're fighting over the second spot, talking about Root and Powell, and then Bryson Hixenbaugh patiently waiting back in the 4 spot, lurking back there about 0.2 of a second behind the 3 spot, trying to find a position to, or find a spot to get inside of Sean Powell to take that 3 spot back.
Yeah, and we're about 14 laps or so before we expect to see the first driver enter into pit road as well. So we're at, and I've been told by our producer that someone has already been down pit road. That's going to be Aaron Smith of the number 70 machine.
Yep.
And I believe he did just set the fastest lap of the race. He did with a 31.47. Currently, our leader, Casey Carrington, set his best lap is a 31.55. So Aaron Smith, despite being a lap down currently, he is definitely setting down faster lap times, and he's going to be able to work, possibly regain that lap once our drivers here in the front of the field work their way down pit road as well. But yeah, Chris, I think you hit the nail right on the head. These guys are going to be battling it out all the way until the end, and I think that we're at the very end of the lifespan of these tires, and we're getting closer and closer to these cars having very, very minimal fuel, meaning they're going to be a little bit lighter, but being lighter and having not so great tires doesn't exactly mix too well. So these guys are definitely going to be struggling a little bit to keep these cars stable, but they're going to be finding themselves wanting to get into pit road sooner rather than later here as we get closer to lap 55, our expected pit window.
I'm looking at the battle for 8, 9, and 10 right at the moment. Brian Mabry and Bryce Hoffman have been going back and forth quite a bit over the last several laps, and then Adam Benefiel is getting into the mix as well in the 10 spot. And Dale Leakes Jr. is just sitting in front of them, just like, okay, y'all can battle it out behind me. I'll just try to put some separation between, and he seems to be doing a decent job of that. Aaron Smith, you talked about him going into pit lane. He was actually our second qualifier. So in this race, so he has fallen down. We talked about earlier, he was having some looseness issues on his car in the first part of this race, and it seems they've come back to bite him, as it would seem at the moment. But he's running fast. He's just not able to handle it as well he would like to, I'm sure.
And we have another driver coming down pit road. It's actually Aaron Smith once again coming down pit road one more time. Not sure what's happening with Aaron Smith. And we have Bryson Hixenbaugh, Kevin Steele also coming into pit road as well. Bryson Hixenbaugh made it in first, with Kevin Steele making it in second. That's going to shake things up here for the front of the field, and that's going to stir the pot, as these two drivers are now going to have fresher tires than the rest of the field, and both of these drivers are not slow by any means. So these guys are definitely going to be putting the pressure on the front of the field here once they get on those fresher set of tires. And yeah, Casey Carrington, Sean Powell, Raymond Root are definitely going to be looking to want to get into pit road here within the next 10 laps, I'd say. We have another driver making their way.
Eight of Raymond Root in, Casey Carrington. Looks like he might be working on heading in as well. And Preston McCrae, your pole sitter, is headed into pit road. So yeah, that looks like lap 45 was the one, or lap 46, sorry, is one they were looking at doing it on. So a good slew of drivers headed in, getting some fuel, getting some tires, and they'll be ready to go for another probably 45, 50 laps or so. That tells us exactly what we need to know about the tire wear on this. So the tires are going faster than fuel in this by about 10 laps or so before drivers are not very confident with their setups as far as their tires are concerned. You're looking at about a 2-second drop in the lap times, ideally from fresh tires to not so fresh tires. So that looks like we've hit that and a little bit more in certain situations. So good stuff by these drivers to get into pit row. First green flag pit stop of the day here at Chicagoland for the Nostalgia 300. Chris Curtis, Mason Highbaugh, and Carlos Acosta in the booth, hitting all the buttons, making us look way smarter than we actually are. So thank you to you. And thank you to you guys spending your Saturday night with us here at Chicagoland.
Absolutely. Thank you to all our fans, to everyone that comes in and watches all of these broadcasts. It's always great to have all the fans rooting on their favorite drivers as well as watching us ramble on here in the booth. But Damaris Hickenbottom making his way into pit road in the number 25 machine. And we also have a driver making his way behind the wall, Aaron Smith, going to find himself retired from the race today. Not too happy with the performance of the number 70 machine, it seems like today. Unsure what the issue exactly was with the number 70 machine there. If we happen to see anyone make their way into the infield care center, we will have a chat with them if they happen to find themselves in there. But right now, Casey Carrington, Sean Powell, and Adam Benefiel are all on track. Granbush making his way down pit road as well, in 9th place as well. Gotta say, impressive work there from Andre, taking advantage of some of the drivers making their way down pit road as well. Sean Powell, Adam Benefield, Brian Mabry, all making their way down pit road now as well. Yeah, so Chris, I think you hit the nail right on the head. It's, I think we're gonna start to see these drivers come in probably 45 laps for tires during this race. So I gotta say, with only 5 sets of tires, what do you think these guys are gonna do? Do you think that's gonna be enough to finish the race?
It's going to have to. It's just going to really give some stress to those that decide to pit a little bit early. It is a decision making it's going to be good decision making for these drivers to kind of determine, hey, how long can I go without having to actually go in and replace these. As Cody Bird moves up, it looks like Casey Carrington, Cody Bird, and Nick Terrell, the only 3 drivers to this point that have not gone into the pits, and they are currently sitting 1, 2, 3 respectively. But everybody else, as they come out, they're going to be able to close that gap fairly quickly. And we'll see how long Casey Carrington. The nice part about Casey Carrington, Cody Bird, and Nick Terrell not going in right away is they can hold on to the new set of tires a little bit longer and not have to pit as soon. They can make that those 5 sets last a little bit longer as we get towards the quarter part of this race.
Yeah, they're definitely going to have to stretch the length of these tires as much as they possibly can. And you saw just a moment ago as well, Casey Carrington getting passed by lap traffic who are on fresher set of tires. You can see just how slow Casey Carrington is on those current set of tires and how much faster everyone else is. So Casey's definitely going to be feeling the pressure here very, very soon, as Kevin Steele is going to be in 4th place, making his way around the track, setting down lap times of about 32.04 was his last time around. A little bit slower than his best time, but Cody Bird making his way down pit road as well. The field is starting to come in, and there's only 2 drivers left out on track who have not made their way into pit road. That is going to be Casey Carrington in the 37, Nick Terrell in the number 81.
Yeah, we'll see if they can go ahead and get into the pit box here soon, but they are not looking very keen to do that as of yet. A good race so far. Casey Carrington has been pretty clean. Not really a lot of threats to his ranking up top since he took over the first spot. And Nick Terrell, first time we've seen him in the top 3 with Raymond Root, who's been there seemingly all day. And then you got to take a look at Bryson Hixenbaugh, who's sitting back there in the 5 spot. We know he's capable of catching everybody on this grid. So how far is he going to let it go before he starts to put on the gas? And then Adam Benefiel sitting in the 8th spot. That's his best spot of the day so far, as we'll see how long it takes him to get up into the top 5 and even challenge for the lead himself.
Yeah, you know, and I'm almost thinking too that Kevin Steele, Raymond Root, and Bryson Hixenbaugh, I almost don't think that they're going to be waiting to catch up to Casey Carrington or Nick Terrell. I think they're just going to wait for them to pit, and then we're going to see a battle between those 3 drivers that I just listed, and it's going to be a shootout between these 3 guys, and I think Bryson Hixenbaugh is going to be the driver to look out for here. Bryson has been consistently fast throughout this race, and you know, we saw him earlier, I would say around lap 30 or so, where he was just pushing hard, super hard, trying to work his way between, I forget who it was. I believe it was, oh gosh, I can't remember the name. Anyway, Bryson Hixenbaugh is definitely going to be a driver to look out for, pay attention to here, as he's going to be working his way up to try and catch up to Raymond Root, as well as up to Kevin Steele in the number 2 machine. So these guys are going to be forming a string for the lead, I believe, here.
You got to be getting close to Casey Carrington as well on fuel. 55 is the optimal fuel window. He's got to be starting to run fumes at this point. Lighter car is also going to run a little bit loose as well, as you'll start to see him likely get into the pits, I'd say, in the next 2 laps or so. But for him to be able to run it and keep the lead all the way up through lap, what is going to be 58 here, this is, I mean, a little bit of Iron Man from Casey Carrington at this point, as he's down in the apron across the start finish line. And how much longer can he go is the question, but he keeps it going. He's still got about a 22 second advantage over second place position based on pit. So he's going to try to keep it as long as possible, maybe at least go for the lead most laps award in the contingency plan in this race as well.
Yeah, that might be a possible possibility, and our producer also mentioned he may also be in contention for the knee-high. Yep. Yeah, the knee-high septic award. So, you know, yeah, that's maybe what he was trying to do there, but as he makes his way into pit road, now our only driver, actually, never mind. Yeah, our only driver left on left on the track right now that has not made their way into pit road is going to be Nick Terrell in the number 81, who's already down into 5th place currently. Raymond Root, Kevin Steele, and Bryson Hixenbaugh are going to be leading this race, and Casey Carrington going to find himself in pit road, now dropping down to 8th place currently. As I say that, down to 11th. He's going to have to get out of pit road here rather quickly if he wants to find himself working his way through the field, as these guys are going to be on a little bit older tires now, but it's not going to be too much of a difference. I don't think it's going to affect the difference between how the lap times between these guys that are coming out of pit road just now and who have came out of pit road about 10 or 15 laps ago.
Nick Terrell in the 81 Taco Bell car. He is the last standout, last holdout from pit row. He is now on lap 61. He's stretching this as far as it will go. But Raymond Root, Bryson Hixenbaugh, your main beneficiaries, they move into the 1-2 spot. And then it is Kevin Steele in the 2 car. He is up into 3rd position with Sean Powell behind him. But there's a pretty good gap between 3 and 4, about 3 seconds between Sean Powell and Kevin Steele at this point.
Yeah, Sean Powell as well, another driver that has just been absolutely impressive throughout this race. The number 28 machine looking very dominant here in this series, up 9 positions currently from the last time that he came out of pit road. In 4th place currently, he's going to be trying to catch up to the number 2 machine of Kevin Steele. He's getting close very, very quickly as well. And Kevin Steele, I got to mention as well, he's also been quite fast here, but it seems like Sean Powell just, I don't know, that number 15 machine just has some magic brewing in it. Or the number 28 machine. Or the number 2 of Kevin Steele and the number 28 Sean Powell, both are just looking very, very impressive.
Well, Sean Powell's actually cut down that deficit between him and Kevin Steele down to 2.5 seconds. He's cut down a half second in a single lap. So that is good on him to do that. 1.5 mile track, 114 degree track temperature at race start time, and it's definitely played some havoc, wreaked some havoc on these tires through the first pit stop. Raymond Root about second and a tenth ahead of Bryson Hixenbaugh, who's moved up into the 2 spot. Sean Powell and Benefiel, they have moved up both 9 positions into the 4-5. Those are your top movers and shakers so far in this race. Your DC Spark Hard Charger Award co-nominees at the moment. And quite a few good contingency awards. Some of them funnier than others, as we are in for as we've been in for a fun race so far. But top 5 positions are paid positions as well, as up to $40 for the winner in the $95 prize pool for positions.
Yeah, so not only do drivers get to come out here and race and have a fun time, but if you find yourself in the top 5, you may find yourself with a little bit of cash to walk away with and spend as you so please. Now, whatever it is that you decide to spend it on, well, that's up to you. You also have a few opportunities to win some awards here tonight, as we've alluded to a few times already here tonight. The DC Spark Hard Charger Award, the Turtle Juice Pole Award, Knee High Septic Stinking Up the Race Award, the Zombie Tachometer's Fastest Lap Award, B4 Car Parts Keeping It Clean Award, just to name a couple more as well. And there's, I believe that was actually all of them that we have for tonight as well. So a lot of opportunities, a lot of awards to be had for tonight.
You missed one, the 3-Wide TV Mama Ain't Raised No Quitter Award. And Carlos can't yell at me that time because I pronounced it correctly. And as that one is the lowest finish, or the finisher with the most amount of laps down. So that's an interesting thought, but you need to be able to get it across the finish line, essentially.
Yeah, so, and that's, so far, I think a lot of these drivers are going to be able to do so, with the exception of one driver, the number 70 of Aaron Smith, who had to take it behind pit wall already. Most of these guys here are keeping it out on track and are still racing here. I believe the 2 drivers are currently 2 laps down. Both Nick Terrell and Casey Carrington are on lap 65. Currently, we're going on 66. The lead laps being corrected is 1 lap down. My apologies.
Yeah, that's just fine. Adam Benefield's moved up into the 5 with Sean Powell. They've been in the same spots for a little while. Kevin Steele in the 3 spot, Bryson Hixenbaugh 2, and Raymond Root, number 1 so far in your hearts and on the grid. He's about a second ahead of Bryson Hixenbaugh as it sits right now. Let's talk about one Damaris Hickenbottom, who's moved up into the 8th spot. He's moving pretty nicely, and 3 wide coming up. That's the back straight going to turn 3, I do believe. And a good bit of clean racing as these guys very packed up there in the into that turn. See how they exit and go onto the straight.
Yeah, it's still very interesting to see a lot of these guys. It's no one is really doing the same exact thing twice. It seems like these guys are changing up their strategy as they go. No one's really sticking to the same thing throughout this race. You see some guys wanting to prefer that low line to be a little bit faster. And then you see some guys wanting to prefer that middle to high line to maybe save tires a little bit. They might not be as fast or be able to make any overtakes, but they're going to be able to keep up and at least keep the pace and stay with the rest of the field and hopefully not lose any positions there. But right now, Kevin Steele in the number 4 position is going to be looking to try and close that gap as well. Sean Powell in 3rd place, Bryson Hixenbaugh in 2nd, and Raymond Root in 1st. These guys all doing a very impressive job. Raymond Root as well, able to work his way up to almost nearly a 2nd gap between himself and Bryson Hixenbaugh in the number 63. So, and Bryson Hixenbaugh as well, able to work his way up to 2nd place. And I think he's going to close that gap to Raymond Root rather quickly. We've seen Bryson make some very, very solid attempts at closing gaps between drivers, and I think we're going to see that happen here between himself and the number 8 machine.
Very well could be. I'm taking a look at the Damaris Hickenbottom Brian Mabry race right now. About 0.3 of a second between those 2 gentlemen, 8th and 9th position as it sits right now. And there's a full second between Hickenbottom and Dale Leakus Jr. in the 7th spot. But that's about your closest contest right at the moment between 2 racers. Everyone else getting a little bit more spread out than I think they would probably prefer. But everything's still been clean as we're about, I'd say, anywhere between 30 to 40% through this race at the moment. We're going on lap 73, and we're almost 3/4 of the way through this particular pit window in the sense of how long tires are probably going to keep lasting on this. So I'd say sometime in the next 10 to 15 laps, you're going to start to see cars head down pit lane one more time to shake up the running order even a little bit more.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I think lap 90 to 95 is where we're gonna start to see drivers come down pit road once again here. But I also gotta ask you too, Chris. Do you think that we're gonna see some drivers maybe try and extend that window just by a little bit? Given that we've seen drivers kind of come in a little bit earlier than we were predicting at the beginning of the race, and just to remind everyone, before we were predicting about 55 laps per pit window, and now we've adjusted that to about 45, given the track temperatures and just what we've seen on track. I'm curious to see if any of these drivers are going to try and be brave and extend that maybe by 5 laps or so.
No, I mean, you could start to see that, but you're also going to see racers like a Casey Carrington and Nick Terrell, who took a while to get onto pit row, who are going to benefit the longer that they stay out on their current, because they can they'll be able to. You're going to see some of these racers have to pit a little bit earlier than others because of how long they waited to get into pit row. So that's going to be an interesting situation as far as that goes. Take a look at Andre Granbush, currently your lucky dog holder at the moment, but just behind him is Sid Kashishian, who's been right on his bumper for a little while now. That remains a battle for 12th and 13th, and there is some contact into the wall. Didn't see it on my side. We'll see if we can get a replay of it, but that's not the way you want to go.
And as our producer gets the replay spun up for you guys, yeah, these racers are definitely racing hard here in this series. Bryson Hicksonbaugh currently on your screen in second place with, I believe, that's Sean Powell. It is in the number 28, charging hard behind him, working his way to the bumper of that number 63 machine. And Sean Powell up 10 positions. Definitely a racer that we have been paying attention to for some time in this race, nearly to the halfway mark, and we have a replay ready to go here on your screen. You can see, I believe that's the number 25 getting into the wall.
Not
Damaris
good.
Hickenbottom. Yeah, definitely not what you want to see there for Damaris. And it's very easy to do that. It's, you know, if you're going too fast into these turns and you don't slow yourself down enough, it's very difficult to avoid that wall and to make that collision not happen. It's very tricky in these cars, I gotta say.
Well, especially on older tires too. These guys are running about 33.5 seconds, 33 seconds best on the current set. So that's going to be harder to handle, especially seeing as how we talked about it earlier. The speed these racers are able to maintain in these turns, they only drop at about 8 to 10 miles an hour from the straights into the turns. So that's a fun way to kind of lose the handle sometimes if you're not careful to run at those speeds out of the turns into the straights. If you let it get too loose up high, you are definitely going wall searching, and you got a firm example of it right there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, you know, it's one of those things where if you're not careful, if you're not paying attention, or if you're just getting a little too comfortable, or it's just maybe it's one of those things where you just happen to miss it at the wrong time. Yeah, you find yourself in that situation, and it can sometimes be hard to recover from. It didn't look like Damaris suffered too badly from that incident. He's still in 10th place, up 5 from where he started. So he's still going to be charging, still racing. So hopefully there's not too much damage done to that number 25 machine. We have currently on our screen the number 28 of Sean Powell, who's in second place, able to work his way around Bryson Hicksonbaugh. We weren't able to catch it on screen live, but Sean Powell now working his way up to the number 8 of Raymond Root, and looking quite impressive, I have to say.
Yeah, that's actually a really good run he's got going right now. He's only about 0.3 of a second behind maybe 4/10 roughly. But either way, it's been a very good run for him, up 11 positions from 13th. And while we have a second, as he gets a little bit closer, let's go up and down the grid as we get into lap 81. We'll do another one at lap 160 as we get towards the latter part of this race. But let's start off, Mason, with Raymond Root. Go ahead.
Raymond Root in the number 8 machine, starting off, or in first place currently. Raymond here has been quite the contender here. He was able to find himself in first place after the pit road strategy started to come into play, and Raymond able to take advantage of that and now is leading the race here today. Impressive work there from Raymond Root, leading this race for, I believe, about 25 laps or so now. Could be a little bit more than that, but great job there from Raymond in the number 8.
Good stuff from him. Sean Powell in the 2 spot. He's run a very good run so far, starting up at 13th, and he is right now your DC Spark Hard Charger winner as it sits right now. We'll see how that fares after pit our windows are done this time, but he's currently running about a tenth and a half behind Raymond Root for that 1 spot, and he has been good all day long. Look for him to continue to make a run at that top spot. Be curious to see how long he can keep it if he's able to get there.
Absolutely, and Bryson Hicksonbaugh in 3rd place in the number 63 machine has been looking quite impressive quite today. And just for a second, we have a battle for the lead. Sean Powell and Raymond Root duking it out side by side. We have Raymond Root on the outside, Sean Powell down low. Sean Powell able to keep it out in front of the number 8. He's still down low. Raymond Root trying everything he can to get out and keep some speed and some momentum, but he's not able to. And here we go. We're going to try it one more time. Sean Powell still down low with Raymond Root still on the outside. Sean able to keep it out in front of Raymond Root. Excellent work there from Sean Powell. Raymond Root finding himself not able to keep up with the number 28 of Sean Powell. Excellent work there from Sean.
Yeah, and you all of a sudden see he's got about a 3/10 gap between him and Raymond Root. So good stuff from Sean Powell. We said he had a really good run, and he showed it right there. Let's see how long now he can keep it. He's running about 2/10 faster on the last lap, and about 2/10 faster on this lap as well. So he's running very, very well, and he is your 2nd fastest lap on the track right at the moment through lap 85. So that's a good start good run for him so far. As we get back to the down the grid, and Kevin Steele in the 4th spot started up in 10th. He's moved up 6 positions at this time. He's only about 2 seconds off the lead. This is a racer that could make a charge as he's continuing to, or I should say not 2 seconds, he's actually 4 seconds off the lead, but 2 seconds off of Bryson Hicksonbaugh in 3rd. He's been very good so far. Consistent race for him as he tries to continue his jump ahead, but he's not even the biggest mover and shaker, but I feel like he's going to be right where, or similar to where he's at, when we get to the end of this race.
Absolutely, I agree with you there, Chris. And Adam Benefiel in 5th place in the number 83 machine. Another driver that we have not quite talked about too much here tonight, but has been quite the contender in this race here tonight. And Adam Benefield, having found himself into 5th place now, he's worked his way through the field quite, I would say, almost quietly. We haven't really seen too much from him, but once Adam is kind of in his groove, and once he's found himself in the front of the field, it's all green, it's all go from there. And I think we're going to see more of Adam Benefield here in the front of the field. So great work from the number 83.
And Dale Lakis Jr., he's sitting in the 6th spot right now. He's about a 30/10 ahead of Preston McRae, who's trying to find a way forward. But either way, he's run pretty well. He started in 9th, moved up 3 positions. He's right with the middle of the pack as it sits right now. A good race from him. And he took a pit stop at lap 51. He was about middle of the road. And our first one, Damaris Hickenbottom, is your first one in the pit box in this window as he hits pit road for the 2nd time this race.
Yeah, Damaris Hickenbottom taking the lead on the pit road strategy here for the 2nd part of the expected pit stops here for tonight's race. And I think we're going to start to see the train begin to follow here very, very quickly here, probably next lap around. So when we'll see a couple more drivers come down pit road here as well. But Damaris Hickenbottom going to be on those fresher tires, going to be able to work his way up into potentially the top 5 once the the rest of the grid once the rest of the drivers make their way down pit road as well. But Sean Powell, Raymond Root, Bryson Hicksbaugh, these three drivers, especially Sean Powell, I'm going to be very, very curious what these guys are going to do as far as pit strategy. I almost want to say that Raymond Root and Bryson Hicksbaugh are almost going to try and stick it out with Sean Powell and maybe even try and beat them out of pit road. There's a couple different things that could be played out there, but as these guys are going to have to get new tires and fuel, that might be a little tricky to try and play out.
Yeah, that'd be fun to see where that all shakes out. But we talked about the start of the pit road window, and about 45 to 60 is going to be your main pit road probably opportunity, and we are in lap 92 for those scoring at home. So these guys running about 33.5-second lap times. That is a clear indicator that the tires are starting to wear. We're also seeing some more shade on track as well, as the track temperature going down a little bit here. If the shade starts to stay, then we may start to see the tires last a little bit longer as things start to get a little bit cooler on the asphalt. But don't count your chickens before they hatch there. And as I say that, the sun will come right back out just to say something and see how long it stays. But the good stuff for the tire wear, for those that are staying out for a little while, the longer it stays shady, the more their tires are going to last going into this window.
Absolutely. And speaking of just kind of how things are out on the track, let's have a quick word with Andre Granbush in the number 15 machine, our in-race reporter for tonight. Let's drag him down into the production booth here for just a moment, if I can.
Right here. Yep. Andre Granbush, you got a copy? Oh. Actually put him in the wrong spot. That's why.
Hey, you got to read.
Copy, everybody. You guys got a copy?
We do. Andre, how you doing?
Well, as you can see, not too well.
How's the track? How's the car?
Car is real tight. I'm on the default set. Not a lot of the guys are running the default. So on the long run, car gets real tight. Track's pretty good. A lot of cloud coverage, though, so a lot of grip. Yeah, feeling pretty good.
Yeah, feeling about pit window between 45 and 60 laps, kind of roughly?
Yeah, roundabout. Some of the guys took the short pit. I know Bryson and Kevin both took that short pit. I was trying to split it up into thirds there, take the 50 and 100 strategy. But that short pit strategy kind of bit Bryson and Kevin, so this time they're trying to go a little bit further. I would expect them to go a little bit longer for the rest of the race if it stays green.
Absolutely, Andre. Now, what are you kind of expecting for the rest of the race? We've kind of been predicting here up here in the booth that things are going to get a little spicy, especially for the guys that are leading the race right now. We only have 5 sets of tires that everyone can use, so we're kind of just curious how this race is going to play out for everyone and what kind of strategy everyone's going to play. But what are your kind of thoughts on that, Andre?
I think we're going to see more of the same, what we've had so far, although I will say Casey Carrington's going to be a guy to keep an eye on because he got a pit road speeding penalty early on, but everybody's saying he's definitely got the fastest car on the track. So if we do get a caution, it's very possible that he has a chance in this race. So he's real fast. He's coming up behind me right now, and yeah, he's flying.
All right, well, good stuff, Mr. Granbush. If we get a chance to talk to you a little bit later, hopefully it will be with a better position going on for you. So have a good rest of the race if we don't talk to you.
10-4. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
All right, that was Andre Granbush out of the booth in the number 15 machine, doing a great job so far in 11th currently, even though he's saying that he's not doing too well. And I gotta say, using the default iRacing setup,
yeah,
that is a bold move, Cotton.
He's just outside the top 10 though. Like, he's not doing too badly.
Yeah, I gotta say, you know, even despite using a default setup, and I gotta mention too, for those at home watching that are not familiar with iRacing and how things kind of work for these cars, you are allowed to, for some series, you are allowed to make adjustments to the car, do different things to it to make it do what you want, make it a little bit more comfortable for your driving style. And you'll see a lot of different drivers coming into these series with completely tricked out setups that are they spent hundreds of hours on working and perfecting for a race, and you'll have some drivers like Andre Ground. Jeez, I can't speak for some reason now. Andre Granbush that come in with just a basic setup and they make it work. And That's kind of the difference. You know, you have certain drivers that rely on these setups, and you have other drivers that are just relying on pure skill and talent.
So as of right now, we do have a couple more that did hit pit row while we were talking to Andre. Bryson Hixenbaugh, Raymond Root were a couple of those. Adam Benefiel also hit pit row, and then it was Damaris Hickenbottom who started the party at lap 88, and Dale Leakes Jr., who was just in the 6th spot, just decided to go in as well. Sean Powell, Kevin Steele, you're 1-2 right at the moment, but you heard Andre mention Casey Carrington. He's up in the top 10 right now. It's been mentioned he has one of the fastest cars on track, so he'll be one to look out for as things continue. But your race leader, Sean Powell, into the pit box. That put Kevin Steele up in front for a little while here. See how long he wants to go, as he was one of the early pitters on the previous window at lap 45. Still running about 33.5-second lap times, so he's going to see the field catch up to him quite a bit, pretty quick if he doesn't decide to get into the pit box pretty soon.
Yeah, Bryce Hoffman currently in second place in the number 21 machine. He's got about a 15-second gap between himself and Kevin Steele, so Kevin's going to be a little comfortable for now. But yeah, given that he entered into pit road last time around lap 45, it's lap 102 now. That's quite exceeding the pit window here, the pit strategy. I think that's about 67 laps. And he's been out on track with these current tires and the fuel. So I got to imagine that he's running very, very low on fuel. So if he doesn't come into pit road soon, we might even see that number 2 machine stalled out on track. Let's hope that we don't see that happen for Kevin tonight.
Yeah, that would not obviously be ideal. Also, things are going to be a little bit looser for him, as he's one of the lighter cars on track with not as much fuel in the canister or in the tank, and then see if he can tighten it up a little bit when he gets done. We're on lap 103 is the leader at the moment, so we're a little better than halfway through this 200-lap, 300-mile race. The Nostalgia 300. Chris Curtis, Mason Highball in the broadcast booth. Carlos Acosta on the buttons for us, making us look better than we actually look, which you can't see our faces, and thank your blessings for that. As we get into the second half of this race, and you got to start to look at who might have a shot at this going into the second half of this race. Other than Casey Carrington, who we talked about, who was your racer to watch, Mason, through this last part of through the second half of the race?
You know what, Chris? I'm still looking at that number 63 machine of Bryson Hixenbaugh. I really think Bryson's going to be saving that car for the very, very end of this race. We still have 96 laps left to go. There's still plenty of race left, and I think Bryson is going to be one of the drivers to pay attention to as we see Kevin Steele finally make his way down pit road. Definitely extending his pit strategy quite a bit there, nearing about 70 laps on those tires. And we also have Bryce Hoffman making his way down into pit road now as well. Yeah, things are going to be shaking up quite extensively for this race, and given that we're going to have more than a few green flag pit stops, yeah, who exactly is going to finish this race in the top 3? Oh man, I really, that's anyone's gamble. There's so many different drivers that have exchanged hands here, just based on pit strategy alone. So it's tough to say, but I really think Bryson Hixenbaugh is going to be a driver to pay attention to here.
Most of these drivers, I think, are going to probably push it to, I'd say, the 160 lap number, maybe 165, if they can do it. If they're able to do it, then whatever they get at that last pit window will probably be enough to finish the race. That's something to keep an eye on. 200 laps on 5 sets of tires makes for pretty complicated scenarios as far as pit strategy goes. But your fastest cars, I think, are going to prevail, and the ones that last longest on the configurations they have. You got to take a look at Casey Carrington, who we mentioned. We talked about him already. Bryson Hixenbaugh, who you mentioned. But my guy, I think, is going to have to be Raymond Root, is my runner. And Sean Powell is going to be a quick dark horse as well, as he's had a really, really good run of things. But Raymond Root, he's already led a few laps in this race. He's currently running number 2 at the moment, and he's closing the gap between him and Bryson Hixenbaugh, who sits in the 1 spot pretty well. But you could interchange any of those 4 racers: Carrington, Hixenbaugh, Root, Powell, and of course you can't forget about Adam Benefiel, who just took the 4 spot. So there's a very, very good chance that we see a very close race up till the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It's, these guys are all very talented racers as well. And, Bryson Hicksonbaugh, Raymond Root, Sean Powell, who I have not seen in previous broadcasts before, so it's a great thing to see that number 28 machine out here, definitely putting the pressure on some familiar faces here. All of these guys are just putting everything that they possibly can into this race, and it's showing. We've gone 108 laps, green flag. It's absolutely impressive. These guys have raced extremely consistently. We haven't seen hardly any major mess-ups, incidents, anything like that. We saw the Damaris Hickenbottom in the number 25 machine get up into the wall just a little bit, but so far, these guys have just been super clean this entire race. And yeah, I think all of these guys that you mentioned, they're going to be looking to close out this race on a high note.
Nick Monticelli in chat says, looks cool. Hey, thank you very much. You look pretty cool too. Thanks for hanging out with us on 3 Wide TV for this Saturday evening race, the Nostalgia 300 at Chicagoland. As we look at the leaderboard at the moment, Raymond Root jumped in front of Bryson Hicksonbaugh as he takes back the number 1 spot. And Hicksonbaugh he was pretty patient with Raymond Root there. Sean Powell moving up into the 3, and Adam Benefield. Sean Powell and Adam Benefield both up 10 spots from their qualifying positions. They have had very good cars all day long, and they've definitely got to get some recognition.
Yeah, Sean Powell especially, that number 28 machine has just been crushing this field. Not so much in the sense that he's been leading this race, but the fact that he's been able to work his way through the grid time after time. He's been up in the front of the field, at least in the top 5. I would say the majority of this race, probably at least 70% of this race, he's been up in the top 5 positions, now up into P3. And Sean Powell, yeah, I think this racer here, he's definitely going to be looking at potentially a podium finish here tonight. I definitely think it's in the cards for that number 28 machine. But I think Bryson Hicksonbaugh and Raymond Root are definitely going to be looking to keep him from working his way any further up the grid than he already has. But, we've already mentioned a couple times too, we have other drivers here that are going to be ones to look out for. Casey Carrington, despite the fact that he's down 4 positions from where he started, he's in P7, and he's closing that gap rather quickly. His last pit lap was lap 59, so he still is on those older tires, so he's definitely extending that pit window as much as he possibly can. And once he does enter into pit road, he might find himself around, I'm going to guess, about a lap 120, 125 at the very latest, I'm guessing. And these guys that have pitted around lap 100, lap 95, they're going to feel the pressure from Casey Carrington in that number 37. So Casey's definitely playing some very solid strategy here tonight. Yeah, Chris, it's all over the place as far as who to pay attention to.
And this is an interesting spot. Casey Carrington, even on those older tires, has moved ahead of Preston McRae as we see the yellow flag come out for the first time. Our first caution of the day. Missed exactly what caused it. I know Carlos was trying to talk in my ear, but he was cracking up a little bit. But the Benefiel, Benefield went, I believe I saw him go off track a little bit, and that is probably the cause of the first yellow flag of the evening on lap 113.
And here is a replay of that action here. You're seeing on your screen the number 83 making his way, getting sideways. Adam Benefield down into the grass, not able to keep that car together and keep it straight. Just got a little bit loose coming out of that turn, and yeah, and that's just part of, I'm curious, when was his last pit lap? He was in lap 97, so he's not exactly on old tires either.
No.
It's probably just got a little bit too fast coming out of that turn and wasn't able to keep it together here. Have another look at that accident. Yeah, you see just a little bit of a snap. He might have overcorrected just a little bit and sent that car sideways. Unfortunate for Casey.
Yeah, no bueno for Benefield, and you see the grid start to work on coming in for a pit road stop. That's gonna create some interesting strategies down the line as well for the top 6 and 8 of the 10 top racers are going into the pits. It's going to create a pit window right around the 160, 165 mark. After, I would actually even say 170, 175. So we could get a 25 lap sprint to the finish the way this is going, but that's going to benefit. That's going to benefit a lot of these racers who stayed out originally. That's a little bit of you didn't think you'd get a caution at this point, the way these guys were going, but Benefiel spins by himself in the back straight and creates an opportunity for a lot of these racers.
Yeah, and that's all it takes too. You don't even have to have a multi-car incident to have a yellow flag come out. All it takes is one car to mess up, and it send the whole track into a yellow flag restart. And that's what we're gonna see here. And like we were talking about just a few minutes ago, Chris, this is gonna shake up the front of the field. This is going to shake up who is going to be leading this race for the rest of the I believe this is about a little over 80 laps, 84 laps, and it's going to be anyone's race here. We have Preston McRae, Demars Hickenbottom, Bryce Hoffman, actually a few of these drivers making their way down pit road now as well. So Bryce Hoffman, Raymond Root, and Bryce Hickenbottom are going to be the drivers currently behind the pace car leading this race. This is gonna turn out to be a very interesting final few 80 laps here at Chicagoland.
This will be a fun restart as well. Chance to mix things up basically on fresh tires and fresh fuel through the entirety of it. Bryce Hoffman has decided, I think, to stay out, as it so seems at the moment, as he just pit, so he doesn't feel the need to pit at this point. But first caution, and everybody else on track has gone in at this time, so that'll create an opportunity for Hoffman to maybe put some separation, but how long it's going to last is going to be the main question as everybody works on getting gridded back up, and we will get things going again here in just a moment. But lap 117 is where they're at, still better than halfway through this Nostalgia 300 at Chicagoland Speedway.
Yeah, it's been quite a fascinating race to witness here today. And I gotta say, I wasn't too sure what to expect coming into tonight's race. I personally have never seen a race at Chicagoland. This would be the first time I've ever seen one, so I was kind of curious to see what would happen here, and I've kind of been blown away by what I've seen. Just the uniqueness in the track layout and how these drivers actually race this track. It's truly unique, and we only have one lap to go here before we see the green flag come out here. Once again, these drivers are going to see some more green flag runs here. Bryce Hoffman, Raymond Root, Bryson Hickenbottom are all going to be the top 3 currently. Chris, I am quite excited to witness this restart. This is going to be quite intense, I have to say.
Raymond Root, who's already led some laps in this race. Bryce Hoffman sitting in the first spot off this restart. We'll see what kind of restart he's going to get, what kind of launch he's going to get as everybody gets gridded back up. But then you got to take a look at Bryson Hickenbottom, who's really good on the restarts himself. He's usually very good making up positions off of cautions, as is Kevin Steele. So those two definitely ones to take a look at as we come into what's going to be turn 3. It's going to be a fun time. See where everybody gets at. Green flag coming out here in fairly short order as we'll start to see the pace car dive down. And right there, here we go. Green flag is on the way, as actually Andre Granbush went into the pits off of the restart. Interesting decision there, but we're underway again. And you see Bryce Hoffman gets a decent start with Raymond Root behind him as they work to go single file. About 0.2 of a second, but Raymond Root all over that gap. And he's shrinking it down. He's about halved it in just that one turn.
Yeah, these drivers here, Bryson Hoffman and Raymond Root, both duking it out. Raymond Root dropping it down low, going into, I believe, turn 3, coming out of turn 4, able to hold it out in front of Bryce Hoffman, able to gain that first place position. Now Bryce Hoffman's going to be trying to put the pressure on the number 8 machine of Raymond Root, try and regain that position that he just lost. But Bryson Hickenbottom as well is just behind them in 3rd place in that number 63. He's closing that gap rather quickly. Sean Powell Sean Powell as well on just behind Bryson Hixenbaugh. These guys are going to be racing hard for these top positions here. It's going to be a spicy one here. Raymond Root is going to have his work cut out for him to be able to hold out in front of these absolutely fast Bryson.
Andre with us, our in-race reporter, has dropped in as he went into the pit box on his restart. Andre, how are things? What happened with the pit on the restart?
Well, I think I'm going to stick around the booth here with you guys for the remainder of the race. I made a bonehead move. I came down pit road, went to get some damage fixed. I had some damage from a prior wall tap there. And when I came out, I went to switch my black boxes over on the keyboard to the relative. And when that happened,
no.
I bumped my steering wheel, and I bumped myself right into the wall and got a meatball. So got a black flag, had to bring it back down pit road, and that leads us to now.
Okay, well, welcome. There's a seat warm for you. I'm not sure who's been keeping it warm, but it's there for you. And we'll get the things going on. So we're on lap 122 of 200, and you mentioned on the last time we spoke to you, Casey Carrington, the guy to watch. He's got fresh tires and fresh fuel now, especially coming off that caution. He, I think, has got to be one you got to keep an eye on off that pit road penalty earlier. He's running top 10, almost top 5 now.
Yeah, being back on the lead lap, that's going to be a huge game changer. That caution came out at the absolutely correct time for him. He was waiting. He was on that long run strategy, hoping that caution would come out. And then when Benefiel went around on the backstretch there, it was just perfectly timed. So he's already on the move trying to get around Dale there in the 99. Yep. But he definitely's got a fast car. Up front, though, Raymond Root all race long. He's had a solid, consistent long-run car, and I think the long run is what we're going to be looking at for the rest of this race because we haven't had that many yellows historically, and that long-run speed could be important.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there. That, it seems to be, too, the long run has been playing in a lot of drivers' favor here as well. We've seen a lot of different strategies being played out here, but Raymond Root, one of the drivers here that seems to be utilizing that long run strategy to his advantage, and I almost want to say Sean Powell and even Bryson Hixenbaugh are both kind of utilizing that same strategy as well, just a little bit. But given that everyone came into pit road during that yellow caution, everyone should be topped off on fuel and should have a decent set of tires now at this point. We're going to be seeing these guys extend their pit strategy all the way out to probably the last 20 laps or so. We might not even see some guys enter into pit road. What do you guys think about that?
I think you're exactly right. I think probably 165 to 180 is going to be your generous pit window at this point. As we're going to have about a 20 to 25 lap race to the finish as things sit right now. But I want to put the spotlight on Bryson Hixenbaugh here. He's cut the gap between him and Raymond Root down to about 7 tenths. So that's something to keep an eye on, as we know what kind of pursuit that Bryson has on any given day on the racetrack. So I want to see how long it takes him to catch up to him. And Raymond Root and Bryson Hixenbaugh both on the same set of tires, same set of fuel as it sits right now. So, but Sean Powell, got to keep an eye on him as well. He's not too far behind. He's your DC Spark hard charger at the moment.
Yeah, Sean's another driver who's had a strong car all race long. The competition level has been really great. I mean, especially for an event that was kind of put together and there wasn't much of a vetting process, but the guys that showed up, they showed up to play. I mean, they definitely are exceptional. I mean, the strength of field was a lot higher than I was expecting, and Powell is one of those drivers that has been impressing all race long. Casey Carrington has moved up to 5th, and also I should note that it looks like Kevin Steele has taken it behind the wall, so the number 2 machine is going to be out of the event for the time being. He's currently scored 6 laps down, but this battle for the lead is kind of stagnated. You called it out there, Chris, where Bryson closed in just a little bit. He was kind of chipping away at that lead. Now for the last couple laps, it's kind of stagnated, and I can say from experience, even though it's Gen 4 and you don't really think about dirty air with the older cars, it is still a thing. And the closer you get, the tighter your car is getting, and I think that might be what Bryson's experiencing.
Yeah, Bryson definitely seems to be falling off the pace just a little bit. Whether or not he's going to be able to hold on to that pace and just keep up with the rest of the field, I don't think he's going to struggle with that too much. It's just a matter of, is he going to be able to keep up with the guys that are going to be trying to take over his second place position right now. And Sean Powell in the number 28 is going to be looking to do just that. So I'm curious to see what Bryson's going to do once he starts to have that competition of Sean Powell starting to close in on his rearview mirror.
So something to note, 1, 2, and 3, Root, Hixenbaugh, and Powell, lap 127, were both 32.05 seconds. Or were all three. Same exact lap time. They also had no, never mind on that. But either way, very, very identical laps between 1, 2, and 3. That tells you how strong those cars are and how identical they are running to each other. And which is the reason why Hixenbaugh has been able to, even though, yeah, he's losing a little bit of pace, but he's been able to keep that gap right where he wants it, as we said on lap 131. It's been fun to see those top three go at it. And look at Dale Leakes Jr. He's sitting up there after the pit window, and after the last pit stop, he's sitting in top 4. He's had a steady car. He's been sitting in the middle of the pack most of the race, but he's found his way up in top 4, and he's holding his own against one Casey Carrington and keeping the gap at least respectable.
Definitely. And another driver I'm kind of keeping my eye on is Adam Benefiel, who was involved in that spin, obviously. Was the cause for that caution. He's able to stay on the lead lap, and he is still maintaining there in 6th place. So that's another driver that throughout any league or any sort of car that you put him in, he's generally pretty good. So I kind of been following along with him, and I got to drive behind him for a while earlier in the race. And one thing I noticed about Adam is, a lot of drivers, obviously, they prefer the slow in, fast out approach, but Adam seems to be taking it to the next level. He was getting off the throttle a lot sooner than a lot of the guys that I was following out there, but in terms of exit speed, he just had an absolute rocket ship out there. So he's driving a little bit different, seems to be paying off, maintaining the lead lap. He's got Damaris Hickenbottom right behind him, and actually, Damaris just got around Bryce Hoffman. And one more thing to note as well is that some of these guys in the back have slightly fresher tires than the cars that are up front, except for Bryson, Raymond Root, Sean Powell. These 3 drivers, they were the drivers on the short run strategy, and because of that, when that yellow flag came out, they were 20 some odd laps into their run, so they had to take spare tires. They had to take tires. That means their extra set is done. If they get another caution, they're not going to be able to really pit for extra tires, and that's going to put them in a bit of a box.
Yeah, it's definitely it's gonna be quite the struggle for some of these guys. Let's hope that we don't see another caution come out. But we've talked about this a little bit too as well, Andre. While you were still in the car behind the wheel, just the different strategies that these guys are going to have to play out if cautions were to come out, and just the fact that you only have so many sets of tires to work with. You definitely have to be smart with it. You have to be thinking kind of ahead of time and worry about, okay, when am I going to be pitting next, and what am I going to do if a caution were to come out right now. There's a lot of different things that are going to be contributing to these drivers' pit strategy, and it's, with still a little over 50 laps to go, 74 laps to go now currently. There's still plenty of time left to make a pit stop and get on a fresher set of tires and a little bit more fuel to finish out the race. And that's going to shake up things too as well in the front of the field. So I'm very curious what these guys are going to do here tonight, guys.
Adam Benefield's moved up into the number 5 spot. Dale Leakes is just behind him now, as they've changed. Adam Benefield's starting to make a bit of a charge, as he's been able to repair the any damage he had from the spin, as he decided to mow a little bit of grass in the backstretch earlier. The Hixenbaugh and Root dilemma up front, not a lot of change there as far as the gap, but Sean Powell's closed it down to 0.5, or about half a second behind Bryson Hixenbaugh. So he's slowly but surely working his way up there. Next estimated pit window roughly going to be about between 165 and 180 as things get towards about the middle of that pit window as it sits right now.
And I'll tell you what, one thing I'm noticing is these 2 leaders, Bryson Hixenbaugh and Raymond Root, are running very different lines, especially in 1 and 2. Looks like Raymond is preferring that middle line, whereas Bryson is getting down to that white line a lot sooner. He's not really arcing it down there. He's just throwing it down to the white line and riding it till the exit, at which point he arcs up, and he's gaining a lot in 1 and 2. 3 and 4, they're pretty equal. And when I was in the car, it seemed like 3 and 4 was a corner where it was hard to be faster than the next guy. It is very multi-groove in 3 and 4, and both grooves seem to work just as well as the other. But in turn 1, it really is one lane. If you try to run the high side, you've absolutely got to nail it. And even then, you're just going to be breaking even with the guy on the bottom. Whereas if you get it down to the bottom, there's a little bit more grip down there. The car rotates a little bit better, and you have a wider arc out, which lets you carry more speed. So that's definitely helping Bryson big time as this battle for the lead continues.
They're having some fun basically trading lap times at the moment. Root will have a lap that's better than Hicksonbaugh. Hicksonbaugh will have a lap that's better than Root. Anywhere from 4 to 6 tenths is what they're 4 to 600ths anyway. In some cases, there is where their differentials are. So fairly even all the way through.
That almost seems to be like we're having a Lewis Hamilton and a Max Verstappen battle forming between these two happening out on track currently, as these guys are just, they're about breaking even between similar lap times and just performing, just taking the similar lines around the track. These guys are, like you guys said, these guys are swapping who is going faster and who is able to stay consistent here. But yeah, these guys definitely going to be charging hard here to try and finish out wherever they possibly can. And Sean Powell as well, getting ever closer and closer to the 63 of Bryson Hicksonbaugh, going to be putting pressure on that 63 here very shortly as well. But yeah, so far, and we have a car out on the grass here in the number 83. I believe that is a replay, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was indeed. That would have been the Adam Benefiel spin earlier that was on your screen just a little bit ago, just to kind of give you guys some context as to where his run has taken him. He's had a pretty decent car up until now. He's a couple laps behind as we sit right now.
In the meantime, just a quick update. Adam Benefiel, who was one of the top 6 drivers, I think Chris mentioned he had moved up to the 5th position at one point. He's taking it behind the wall as well. So Adam Benefiel out of the session. That's going to move quite a few drivers up 1. Amaris Hickenbottom up to 7th, Preston McRae 6th. Dale's going to be P5, Casey Carrington P4. And this battle for the lead is there. Bryson has finally got to the bumper of Root. It took him a number of laps, but we're kind of at the point where the tires are starting to wear quite heavily, and the cars are slowing down quite a bit. Everything's evening out. And Bryson has been really practicing saving the tires all race long. I know in the driver's chat, he kept mentioning that he was trying to figure out ways to save the tire, take it a little bit easier on the short runs. And now 143 laps into this race, it seems like that's paying dividends because he seems to have a little bit better long run speed than Raymond Root. It's just going to be a matter of passing him. And that's going to be difficult because this is a track where you can defend really well. I was battling with Cody Bird in that 13 machine earlier in the race. We were side by side for nearly 20 laps. And whenever one of us would get next to one another, it was really easy just to defend, stay side by side, not give up that room. So Bryson's going to have quite the task ahead to try to get around Raymond Root, but with the speed that he has, I think he can do it.
Taking a look at the 1-2 battle right now, Raymond Root, Bryson Hicksonbaugh going at it, about a tenth of a second between the two of them. That is a benefit to Sean Powell, who's in the 3 spot, who's been able to shrink that gap. As I say that, he lost about a tenth on that stretch, but he's right there in that group of 3. So watch for him to try to make a move as the 3 of them are single file. We'll see how close Hicksonbaugh gets to Raymond Root and how long it takes him to try to make some moves to take that lead.
55 laps left to go here as well as Chicagoland, and we are getting closer and closer to the, I believe, the final expected pit window, at least I would hope, for these drivers here tonight. So, you know, I gotta wonder what these guys are going to be expecting here in these final few laps. 54 laps to go now once the guys cross the line there. Yeah, Raymond Root is going to have pressure building up behind him with Bryson Hicksonbaugh and Sean Powell, who's now taking the outside line, trying to see if he can find some momentum there. Not quite able to, but it seems like he's just trying to close that gap between the 2 drivers in front of him as he takes the low line now, just trying to find any place on track that he possibly can. And for these guys that are on the lead lap right now, that are duking it out in this kind of trio here, it's going to be very interesting to see who is going to bite the bullet as far as who's going to enter into pit road first and who's going to make an attempt to try and win on the pit strategy alone.
Look at this.
I think now is probably a little bit too early, I would say. Probably another 15 laps before we start seeing one of them dip down unless we've seen a couple of early pitters. I think Hicksonbottom was one of them earlier, Andre, who decided to jump down. But Hickenbottom's been your first in the pits all day long.
Yeah, Hickenbottom has definitely been on that severe short run strategy, coming in really early. But as we're talking about this right now, Bryson is changing up his line as Cody Bird is also making his way down pit road. But Bryson is running that high line right now. I think he was getting a little bit frustrated, couldn't get around RJ. So now he is just running that high line, trying to find speed wherever he can. But that rear end is really coming around on him. All race long, we've been kicking the marbles up there, pushing dust up the track. And as he runs this really high line, you can see it's not very stable. And I can't say it's much faster as he gets into the wall and stuck to the wall. That's going to cost him one position as Sean Powell's going to go around for second. And there it is, guys. I mean, he was really, really hanging it all out there, but it just bit him.
Yeah, unfortunately not able to keep it on that turn, and that's going to definitely hurt as now he's in danger of giving up third spot to Casey Carrington as well as he's trying to make a run. But now we see what kind of run that Sean Powell can get on the leader, Raymond Root. He was within 3/10 a little while ago when there was 3 cars up front that were vying for the lead. Now we have people starting to go into the pits a little bit earlier than thought, and then now it becomes a guessing game as to how long this battle for the lead is going to last before, like Mason said, one of the two decides to take the bullet and head into pit road themselves.
Yeah, and Bryce Hoffman being one of the drivers to enter into pit road this early, I almost wonder if some of these drivers are wanting to play out the last kind of part of this race on a fresh set of tires, on as much fuel as they can possibly get, being that they are now within the kind of expected pit window. We're on lap 151 now, 200. They have 49 laps left to go. They will have plenty of time on tires and fuel. So I wonder if some of these guys are just playing it safe, and we then have the guys who are in the front of the field who are going to want to try and keep that out as long as possible, maybe even try and keep it out to possibly, I think you mentioned it earlier, Chris, around a lap 160 to a lap 180 is where we are expecting to see these guys, at least for the lead lap drivers, to make their way into pit road.
Yeah, but as things progress, that might start to happen a little bit earlier than thought, as we had a couple go into pit row already. But that sets them up for pretty weird situations. You saw the Cody Birds of the world, the Bryce Hoffmans. That sets them up in a position where they're going to be on their last legs going into the very last stretch of this race. So you've got to think that, given the lap, they're given the normal pit windows between 45 and 60 as it's been sitting so far, that they may be trying to stretch things a little bit too far, and that could hurt their finish.
Yeah, it absolutely could. You don't want to stretch it too far. It seems like when you stay out too long, those tires start to wear. The drivers that are going to be on that fresher tire at the end of the race, that could be the game changer. But right now, the battle for the lead has kind of restarted, except now it's Sean Powell and Raymond Root. Sean Powell is going to make a swing at that defense that Raymond's been playing all race long, see what he can do. Meanwhile, Bryson's kind of been stagnating back where he is right now. I mean, he's been about 1.3 seconds back for the last handful of laps, and I think he may have gotten a little bit of damage, nothing substantial, from when he scraped that wall. And I can speak from experience, that does ever so slightly change the handling of your car. So hopefully that's not anything that's kind of holding him back too much. He gets a little bit loose on the apron, and that's actually going to allow Carrington now to try to make a swing at it. He is only about a tenth behind Bryson, and again, Casey has had such a fast car all night long. We got battles all over the track. But going back to the pit sequences you guys mentioned, yeah, they're in the window right now. Anybody could make it to the end. They really realistically could have made it about 10 laps ago, as you can go about 60-ish laps, depending. But the question is just going to be, how much do they value tires? How much are they able to save the tires? And they're in a bit of an awkward position because really that caution came out, I would say, mid-pit sequence. So they got some calculating to do.
Yeah, it definitely came out in a very, very odd spot in the race. It was, like you said, Andre, kind of right in the middle of the pit sequence. And yeah, definitely changed things up for a lot of these guys here. And like you said, they're going to have to do some math. They're going to have to figure out what's going to work best for them to be able to finish out the race there. But like you said as well, this is definitely the opportune time to come into pit road and take some tires and take some fuel. It's just a matter of when these top lead lap drivers are going to do that is really the question here, and it's really a gamble. You could really kind of pick any number and you'd probably be close to correct.
Adam Benefiel spun out on lap 114, which is when that caution came out. So about at this point 42 laps ago, the way things are sitting. But that puts us. But not everybody even took the pit. We had, I think, 1 or 2 cars stay out and not pit at that point. So that was an interesting little nugget as well. But Raymond Root and Sean Powell still battling about 4/10 away from each other. Casey Carrington has moved ahead of Bryson Hicksonbaugh at this point and into the 3 spot with Dale Leakus still about 5 seconds behind. So it's basically right now a 4-horse race as it sits right at the moment before this next pit window happens, which, I mean, you mentioned you're right in the middle of it. So this is a prime opportunity. And once one goes, I think the rest of the cars on the lead lap are going to go as well, especially with one of the top 4. I think everyone else is going to follow suit.
I'd have to agree, and I think an undercut could be pretty valuable here. The tire fall off is massive, and I got to say it happened quick. In just a matter of about 10 laps, you're going to drop anywhere between 7/10 to nearly a second, depending on the car. So if you get that undercut, you can definitely gain a lot of time. And from what I'm seeing, I think it's better to be on the defense. Even if you're on the older tires and the guys behind you are really attacking, as it looks like Sean Powell is making his way down.
There he goes.
Road. Even if you have the fresher tires, being on the offense is a lot more difficult than defending, because Raymond Root has shown us time and time again that as long as you play your cards right, that clean air may be the most valuable thing in the race.
Yeah, Sean Powell is your first of the 4 major dominoes. The first 2 to go in, though, were Sid Kishishian and John Crutchley, your 19 and 48 cards. And overshooting the pit box, I believe, was Sean Powell. That's a problem, and that's gonna get him a pit road penalty, I believe, on pit speed.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we have Raymond Root also making his way into pit road as well, making a seemingly clean entrance as well, not locking up the tires, looking very solid. But yeah, those pit speed entries are definitely bite you in the rear and put you out of contention for the race. It definitely can hurt some of these drivers here today. But shaking up the front of the field, Casey Carrington now leading this race with Bryson Hicksonbaugh in second as well, right on the tail of that number 37 machine. And Damaris Hickenbottom in third, trailing behind with the lapped car of the number 13 of, I believe, Cody Berg.
And right now, it seems like Bryson is sticking to that long-run strategy, as is Casey. And it doesn't really surprise me. Both these drivers are kind of historically predisposed to that long-run strategy. Bryson tried to take the short run early in this race. And like I said in my interview there while I was driving, the short-run strategy kind of bit Bryson once. And I think that's a lesson that he's trying to learn from and trying to play the opposite hand here. So we'll see when he comes down pit road. But if I was a betting man, I would say it is going to be a huge benefit for Raymond Root to have pitted when he did, as well as Powell, as both these guys should cycle out a little bit further ahead, have that clean air. And again, that's a massive advantage out there today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely going to be. It's gonna be a massive advantage for a lot of these guys here, and it's, I gotta say it's been interesting to see how these guys have developed throughout this race and just how the field has switched so much throughout this race. We're seeing all different sorts of strategies being played out, and it's worked out for different drivers here and there, and then you have certain drivers that have just stood out the entire race. Bryson Hicksonbaugh, Casey Carrington, Sean Powell, to name 3 drivers that have, I would say, have been out in the top 5 rather consistently throughout this entire race. There's been others as well that have been out in the front of the field that have been performing quite well. Raymond Root, one of the drivers as well, who to mention for that. But yeah, it's with only with Bryson Hicksonbaugh now making his way down pit road and only 35 laps left to go here in this race. Things are going to be shaping up to be quite exciting here very, very quickly. And for the guys that are wanting to finish out this race in the top 3, the window is closing, and the opportunity to do so is going to be driving away from them faster than it is getting closer to them.
Yeah, as of right now, a couple of things we want to update. One of them being the contingency awards at the moment. Turtle Juice Pole Award went to Preston McRae. He had the fastest qualifying lap of the group. Current DC Sparks Hard Charger Award is Damaris Hickenbottom up 13 positions, but he is yet to pit in this window, so that will change likely, and Sean Powell will probably resume the lead on that. The stinking up the race award by Knee High Septic for most laps led. I believe that actually belongs to Raymond Root at this point, who's had the majority of those. Zombie Tachometer's fastest lap goes right now to Raymond Root as well. 31.35 fastest lap of the day from any driver that has completed a lap in this race. And then we are still waiting on the, obviously, Keep It Clean, or the B4 Car Parts Keeping It Clean Award, which is the lowest finisher with the lowest amount of incident points, and the 3 Wide TV Mama Ain't Raised No Quitter Award, with as the driver that finishes most laps down. So we'll see where the updates lead on those. We probably won't have those results all told after the race right away, but they will be in the Nostalgia Discord server after everything is said and done. But the current race leader, Casey Carrington, who has yet to pit in this window with Damaris Hickenbottom right there with him, and only about 13 seconds ahead. Actually, I should say about 25 seconds ahead is Carrington ahead of Raymond Root, as there's still plenty of cushion there with about 33 laps to go.
33 laps to go as well, and it's going to be very, very exciting to witness. I've said it multiple times already here in this closing half of the race, but Casey Carrington, Damaris Hickenbottom, Raymond Root are all duking it out currently for the top 3 positions, and Casey Carrington kind of out in his lonesome. He's feeling pretty comfortable currently, but right now on the trail behind him, I believe, is Bryson Hicksonbaugh in the number 63 machine. He is very close behind the 37. I believe he is down a lap as well, so he's going to be looking to unlap himself as he makes his way around the 37 of Casey Carrington. I gotta mention, Bryson Hicksonbaugh has been extremely fast here tonight, and Andre's mentioned a couple times he's kind of fallen off his pace a little bit, but now I'm almost starting to think that Bryson's kind of figured it out, and he's wanting to kick himself in the rear a little bit and get things going just a titch here to finish out the race.
Yeah, there's only one lap that you need to be fast, I would say, and that's definitely the last lap. Where we want to be up front and be fast, and Bryson, he knows that. He knows when to take it easy, when to show his cards, when to hold them, when to fold them. But we do have Carrington making his way down pit road finally, and that should, with the exception of Damaris Hickenbottom, conclude the pit sequence. So that is going to really cycle everything out, and it looks like Raymond Root has about 10 seconds currently over Bryson Hicksonbaugh. I mentioned that he was going to get a huge advantage coming in as early as he did, and that's exactly what happened. Now the question is, can he play defense as well as he did before? Because now, whereas he was on equal tires with Bryson in the last run, now Bryson's got about 10 lap fresher tires, and that is going to be a lot harder to defend against.
Well, you know who's going to have the fresher tires of all of them is going to be Casey Carrington. He got about 30 laps left in this race, and he is going to have fresher tires than everybody in the field up on the lead lap. So we're going to see how hard he charges going into this last stretch. But speaking of hard chargers, you got to talk about Sean Powell. He's currently, I'd say, fake third, realistically second right now as we're waiting for Hickenbottom to pit. But he's had a very good car all day long. He is currently about a second, I'd say a second and 15. No, 2 seconds, 2.5, 2 1/4, sorry, behind Raymond Root at the moment. But look for that to shrink, I think, as these guys get going. You got about even tires, only 1 lap difference. But Raymond Root in front, we talked about his defense earlier. He's going to have to play it against Sean Powell, I think, again, before this race is done.
Yeah, and Sean Powell, you know, I think he kind of got put in a, I don't want to say in a bad spot, but being that he's in third place, he's definitely worked his way through the field and done an incredible job of it. But I want to say that Sean Powell has not been put in a great opportunity to be able to lead this race as he probably wants to. He's had plenty of opportunities to be out in the front of the field and be in the front pack, but I don't think Sean's been presented too many opportunities to actually lead this race, and I think that's what Sean really, really wants to do right now. He's been charging hard all night, and I think he's very deserving of that award for doing so. And yeah, that 28 of Sean Powell, he's definitely going to be trying everything in his power to work his way through the front of the field and work his way up to Raymond Root and potentially get into first place once Damaris Hickenbottom makes his way down pit road if he chooses to do so with 25 laps left to go.
Damaris definitely a driver that's hoping for a caution, because if he got one, he would realistically be the only driver who'd be able to come down pit road, take fresh tires, and at that point, it would almost be a guaranteed victory if you have fresher tires in that scenario. But unfortunately, I don't think we can really count on a caution. Again, we've had one caution for cause tonight, and that was a number of laps ago. I believe Chris said it was about a lap 120 something, 114. Yeah, so quite a while ago, and kind of a freak incident there. You don't often see drivers like Adam Benefiel kind of spin on their own. So I would predict this to go green. And I think this battle is going to really get hot before the end of this thing, because you've got Sean Powell closing in on Raymond Root, and you've got Bryson Hickenbottom with fresher tires also closing in on Sean Powell. Realistically, we're in a situation where if this continues to go the way it's going, we may see a 3-car battle for the lead by the end of it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely in the cards here for tonight's race. 25 laps left to go here. These drivers are going to be putting the pedal to the metal as they try and make whatever they can possibly happen here tonight. Raymond Root currently leading the race in the number 8 machine, with Sean Powell on the charge to catch up to that number 8 of Raymond Root, excuse me. And Sean's definitely going to have his work cut out for him. He has Damaris Hickenbottom as well, trailing behind him in the number 25 machine. And Bryson Hickenbottom currently in 4th. Between Raymond Root and Sean Powell, these two drivers are definitely going to find themselves in a very interesting spot as Damaris Hickenbottom makes his way down pit road, as well as Brian Mabry following behind him in the number 3 machine.
Getting into this about lap 178. And you see Damaris Hickenbottom now has taken his turn and gone into pit road. Brian Mabry gone in as well, so that should put them hopefully keeps them in the lead lap, but I'm not optimistic the way things are. Cody Bird has ended up on the lead lap after all that, so that's something for him. But Raymond Root, he is the man to beat at the moment. He's at a consistent car all day long, and he's actually made that gap a little bit more between him and Sean Powell, with Bryson Hickenbottom still trying to catch up to the group of 2 there. But there's a lot of distance between 1 and 3 right now, about 5 total seconds between Raymond Root and Bryson Hickenbottom. At this moment, it doesn't look like there may be enough time to make up that kind of gap.
Yeah, 22 laps left to go here. 21 now as the lead car crosses the checkered line. Yeah, with only 21 to go, and with the lap times that these guys are putting down, you're definitely going to be praying for either a caution or cars wrecking in front of you. I guess both of those would be intuitive of one another. But yeah, it's for the guys that are in the lead lap right now, they're so far spread apart. Sean Powell is about 2.5 seconds behind Raymond Root, and also 3 seconds in front of Bryson Hickenbottom. There's quite a bit of distance between these drivers here, and I don't think they're going to be able to close it anytime soon. I may be wrong. There may be something up the sleeve of one of these drivers that we've just not seen yet, but 20 laps left to go. I'm kind of doubtful at this point. So we're kind of looking to see Raymond Root and Sean Powell, Bryson Hickenbottom just kind of stay consistent, keep it green, and hopefully finish out this race in a podium finish.
Andre, how about Dale Leakus Jr.? He's actually had a pretty consistent car since about the 3rd pit window. He's been pretty much in that spot the entire time, just sitting in 4th. He's in a money spot right now as we get to as the first 5 spots do pay in this race. And I'd say he's had a pretty good one, just kind of sitting and chilling in that 4th spot for a while.
Yeah, he's got a pretty good gap back to Carrington back in 5th. He's about a 3-second advantage right now. And Bryson's way off ahead. We got about 6 seconds ahead of Dale there. So Dale's kind of in his own little world. I think at the moment, if he can just keep hitting his marks and do what he's doing right now, he's going to bring home a little bit of a cash prize at the end of the night. And he's really been having just a quietly good night for the entirety of this race. That Dream Machine has been really fast, really consistent. Maybe never the most blazing fast car on the track, but definitely one of the most consistent. And that is something that pays absolute dividends in a sport like stock car racing. Consistency is key, and Dale has definitely had that. Going back to the gap with the leaders, you guys were mentioning it's not really closing at the rate we thought it was going to, and I have to agree with that point as well, because Bryson, while he is lapping a little bit quicker than the cars ahead, has really only cut the gap to the leader down by about 2 seconds over the last 15 laps or so, which is not quick enough. He'd have to be gaining a little bit more than that. And the car's handling also seems to be getting away from him, as it does for Sean Powell as well. I've been watching Powell, and it seems like that car is starting to get away from him in the corners just a little bit. So right now, if you're Raymond Root, I think he's got the best seat in the house. He's got the best opportunity right now because he's got the clean air. The drivers behind him are starting to feel their fresher tires, and that advantage that it gives them start to fade away. And so if he can just play some defense, Raymond Root's looking real good right now.
Yeah, Raymond's definitely going to be looking to just stay consistent and keep the car on track. Raymond is definitely looking very, very comfortable at this point in time. He's got plenty of distance between himself and Sean Powell currently. And if he's able to keep what he's got, keep doing what he's doing currently, 16 laps left to go, he's definitely going to be looking at a first place finish tonight. And even Sean Powell and Bryson Hixenbaugh, both of those guys as well, if they're able to just keep things up the way that they've been going in the last section of this race, they're going to be looking at a podium finish tonight. And they definitely earned it. All of these drivers have fought hard for these positions tonight. We've mentioned it time and time again. These guys have all exchanged positions multiple times during pit stop strategies and during the one caution that we had during the race. So these guys have found themselves all over the track, and for Raymond Root and Sean Powell and Bryson Hixenbaugh to place in first, second, and third respectively, I think they're definitely going to be feeling pretty proud of themselves and being able to take away some money in their pocket as well. Casey Carrington and Dale Lucas as well are going to be able to take away some cash prize as well for finishing in the top 5. Yeah, these guys are definitely going to be feeling pretty happy after tonight, I think.
Talk about some position changes up in the top 5. Casey Carrington's taken the 4th spot away from Dale Lucas Jr. as Casey Carrington's running a very, very fast car right now. He's running 3240s while everyone else is running 3290s, and that's an attribute to the freshness of his tires, because he did 5, sometimes 10 laps better than the rest of the field. So watch for him to continue to make a run. He might see Bryson Hixenbaugh before this race is done, but that's going to be still a bit of a stretch. Preston McRae moves ahead of Bryce Hoffman into the 6th spot as well. So that's a 6-7 swap. Nothing money-wise on the line during that, and Preston still may be too far back of Dale to make a run, but we shall see. Nick Terrell, last car on the lead lap. He's sitting in 8th ahead of Demaris Hickenbottom, who is your lucky dog. If that were to occur, if a caution were to occur, he'd be the main beneficiary as we sit right this moment. But Raymond Root still ahead by about 1.5 seconds over Sean Powell, but credit to Sean Powell, who's cut that lead down a little bit.
Yeah, he has cut it down, and it's been fairly consistent. He's getting a 10th here, 2 tenths here. Unfortunately for him, we're looking at about 11 laps left in the race, and if he wants to get to him, he's going to have to close the gap a little bit quicker than what he's doing. So there's another 10th that lap. He was exactly 1 tenth faster, so he's going to have to pick up the pace if he wants to get to him. But again, you never know what's going to happen in these last 10 laps or so. Right now, Bryson Hixenbaugh still 4.3 seconds back. Casey Carrington 9 seconds back, but definitely the fastest car on the track. Chris, you called it. He's about 4 tenths a lap faster than anybody else on the track. Those fresh tires are absolutely giving him a huge advantage right now. And while he may not get to the leader, he could definitely get up to Bryson and maybe increase the payout at the end of this thing.
Yeah, and I think Casey's definitely going to be looking to try and do that here tonight. Definitely going to be looking to try and make a statement here for himself and be able to place in a top 3 position if he's able to catch up to that number 63 of Bryson Hixenbaugh before the race closes. 10 laps left to go. He's definitely going to have to push that car and be able to see what he can do in these final 10 laps here, with Bryson Hixenbaugh nearly about 4.5 seconds in front of Casey Carrington. It's definitely going to be a hard-fought battle, but Casey's going to give it his all and see where he can finish out in today's race. And everyone else that has competed in this race today has done a fantastic job. Great racing from everyone here at Chicagoland.
About a minute or about a second and a third ahead of Sean Powell is Raymond Root at the moment. That's the battle to watch for the time being until Casey catches up to Bryson, but there's not a lot of time left to go. We are 7 laps, or we're on lap not 193 right now of 200. Things are getting a little bit tighter, still getting between a tenth and 2/10 is Sean Powell on Raymond Root. Is it enough time is the main question. He's got about to a second and a fifth now. See where everything shakes out. He's trying desperately to get up to the front and make this a race, but things getting much farther away even as the cars get closer.
And just a quick update, Cody Bird, driver of the number 13, has taken it behind the wall, so he is out of the event late. Didn't want to drive these last few laps, apparently. But this gap to the leader, one thing that could change this for Sean Powell is there is a lap car ahead of the leader, about 5 car lengths ahead of him. They're going to probably get to him within the next lap or so. I don't think the lap traffic is going to give anybody too much of a hard time, but again, just being in that dirty air can slow you down a little bit. And if Powell could get to the slipstream, get to the drafting distance of the leader and the lap car there, maybe pull himself closer, he may have a shot at least to try to make a move before the end of this thing, as we are on lap 195. And again, his lap times are pretty solid right now, kind of swapping back and forth with the leader. One lap he'll be faster, one lap the leader RJ Root's going to be a little bit quicker, but right now I'm noticing that 28 is pushing that car hard. It's something that's very easy to do. When you see the leader in your windshield, you know the laps are winding down. Maybe you drive the car just a little bit beyond its limits, and that's kind of what I'm seeing out of the 28. He is sliding through these corners in a 4-wheel slide just about in the exits, which isn't really what you want to do, but sometimes you got to be right on the edge to be fast, and he's doing everything he can to catch this leader.
Yeah,
4 laps to go.
Yeah, he's absolutely making every sacrifice he can to make it work for himself. And as you said, Chris, 4 laps left to go here. Once we cross the checkered line, Sean Powell definitely on a mission here to try and catch up to Raymond Root in that number 8 machine. And it almost seems like that lap traffic, it definitely did slow Raymond down just a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be enough to play in the favor of Sean Powell with 4 left to go now. And yeah, Sean's definitely still trying his hardest. Bryson Hicksonbaugh still in 3rd and Casey Carrington in 4th. These guys have all been impressive throughout this entire race here tonight, and it's going to be a very, very well-earned finish here for Raymond Root, Sean Powell, and Bryson Hicksonbaugh, as we have 3 laps left to go once Raymond Root crosses the checkered line.
Don't count him out just yet, though. He's cut it down 2/10 on that stretch alone as we get towards the lap 198. 3 laps right on the nose to go, as these two getting a little bit closer. Casey Carrington getting a little closer to Bryson Hicksonbaugh as well, but I don't think there's enough time to catch him on that side. All eyes are on the battle for 1 and 2. Sean Powell definitely going to get a prize for at least his efforts here on the Hard Charger Award from DC Spark. We are getting ever closer as they are halfway through lap 198 and still about 8.5 tenths between number 1 and 2.
It's going to be 2 laps to go with the line, and Sean Powell is on the ragged edge. He is sliding through these corners, but what amazes me is that even though he's in a 4-wheel slide, he's cranking on that steering wheel. He is still slowly gaining on the leader, so whatever he's doing it right, and he is working that car to its absolute maximum capability. I think, unfortunately, though, time is not going to be on his side. It's going to take a mistake from the leader. He's got just enough of a gap for the laps that are remaining that as long as he hits his marks, doesn't make any mistakes, that 28 can close in, but he's just not quite going to have time. As the white flag goes in the air for Raymond Root, he's got the number 28 in tow, and you can see Sean Powell trying to dive as low onto that apron as he possibly can, nearly clipping the grass, and he's doing that to cut the track as short as he can, but it's still going to be about a 7-car length gap as they work their way out of 2.
We are ready to go into turn 2, about 7 tenths between 1 and 2. Raymond Root trying to get enough distance between him and Sean Powell as they come into through turn 3 into turn 4. They're on the back stretch. We have ourselves just about finished. Is Raymond Root as your winner for the Nostalgia 300 at Chicagoland. Sean Powell 2, Bryson Hicksonbaugh 3, Casey Carrington 4, and Dale Leakus likely going to be 5 when all is said and done. Those are your paid positions on the podium for the Nostalgia 300 at Chicagoland.
What a fantastic we had here tonight. The Nostalgia 300 here at Chicagoland. Fantastic race that we had here. All of the drivers performing exceptionally well. A nearly caution-free event with only one caution that we had throughout the entire 200 laps here at Chicagoland. Raymond Root coming out on top, persevering through all of the madness, through all of the carnage, quote-unquote. Raymond did an excellent job here, and it seemed like it could have been anyone's race here as Raymond Root takes his celebratory burnout on the front stretch. Yeah, guys, I really wasn't too sure who was going to be our top contender here in tonight's race, and Raymond Root definitely seemed to be one of those underdogs that was potentially going to win this race here tonight, and glad to see that number 8 Taco Bell machine coming out here, taking home the win.
It was a great drive by Raymond. I think he knew exactly what it was going to take. He knew how important track position was, and he made sure to play the strategy where no matter what, he would always cycle out ahead so that he could be on the defense rather than the offense. And I think ultimately that's what won him the race. I mean, as well as his obviously great driving ability. I mean, the dude was wheeling that car, and he combined that with some great strategy. And yeah, you got a race-winning formula. So congratulations to Raymond Root. And also, thanks for letting me hop up in the booth. I'm going to let you guys handle the post-race coverage as you would, as I don't really have the feed with Carlos and everything. I don't have the broadcast feed. So I'm going to hop over to the driver's chat. But again, thanks for letting me hop up in the booth after I made that bonehead move and gave myself the black flag for damage. And yeah.
Not a problem. Thank you very much. We'll have some post-race coverage here. We're going to try to get everybody involved, or at least a few racers involved in a post-race interview, at least a couple for sure. And I believe we're going to start grabbing people as we go here. I think we're going to start off. Why don't we start off with one of... Oh, yeah, that's a fair point. Let's start off actually with the grid to end this race. And Mason, why don't you give us... I started off the race with the top of the grid. Why don't you go ahead and give us the top 10?
Right on. So rounding out our top 10 for tonight's race at the Nostalgia 300 here at Chicagoland, Raymond Root taking home first place win, and Sean Powell in second, Bryson Hicksonbaugh in third. That's going to round out your podium for tonight. Casey Carrington in fourth place, Dale Leakus in fifth place. That's going to round out your payout drivers for tonight's race as well. Sixth place, Preston McRae. Seventh, Bryce Hoffman. Eighth, Nick Terrell. Demars Hickenbottom in ninth, and Ryan Mabry in 10th place.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good stuff from those top 10. The 11th position belongs to Sid Kashishian, along with John Crutchley in 12th, Cody Bird 13th, 14th, Adam Benefiel. That is Kevin Steele in the 2-car. He was in 15th. And Andre Granbush ends up in 16th with Aaron Smith in 17th. And then Dustin Montgomery, unfortunately, was not able to go. He sits in very last. But good racing by everyone involved. Raymond Root, obviously the happiest man on track, but not by much. Sean Powell with a very good race. We're going to talk to multiples of racers as we get things going. And let's start off, I think, first with one Dale Leakus. Mr. Leakus, you have a copy?
Yes, I got you.
Thank you very much. We pretty good race for you. Pretty consistent through the middle part of that race. How were you feeling on track? How was the car feeling? And what was your main strategy going into the latter part of the race?
A lot of it was just trying to save tires, trying to have something there at the end, and just couldn't really save much. Was trying to keep up with everyone else and trying to make the car faster than I was. But just trying to stay alive was the main thing.
Fair enough.
Keep it off the wall.
Yeah, that's a lot of it. And then going into the latter part, did you hit kind of a groove? You were off in your own little world there for a little while, about middle of the race, where you didn't have anybody in front of you, didn't have anybody behind you. Were you trying to just watch the times, keep them consistent, or kind of keep your line consistent, or were you kind of just thinking, staring off into space a little bit?
Staring off into space a little bit. I was trying to keep an eye on the times every once in a while, make sure I'm not going too slow. I had the lap counter up trying to tell me if I'm running a little slower that lap or a little faster that lap. Trying to make sure I'm staying as consistent as possible and keep the car fast.
Awesome. Well, top 5, you ended up with a paid placement, so congrats on that. Mason, you got anything for him?
Well, I got to give you a congratulations, Dale, for coming out here and finishing first in tonight's race and taking home the $5 for your finishing position tonight. Dale, congratulations on your finish. What were you kind of thinking coming into the night's race?
Coming into the night's race, I wasn't thinking much. It was kind of a last second, buddy said, hey, let's go race. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And haven't gotten any practice in the ARCA cars, so it's just trying not to kill anybody. And we were successful at that, just staying off everybody and making sure we didn't screw up.
Absolutely. Congratulations again. And Dale, I hopefully get to see you again sometime in another broadcast and get to see you perform again in another race. Congratulations once again, and hopefully you get to go out and celebrate tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sending you back down to the waiting room. Thank you. All right, let's talk to, what do you think? Bryson Hickson, Bob, what do you think?
I think we have another driver that might be possibly wanting an interview here. Casey Carrington. Let's see if we can get
actually
him.
A couple. Sean Powell's down there too. He wasn't in the Discord originally. Otherwise, I'd have grabbed him. So
yes, he is our second place driver. So it looks like Casey Carrington is not in the Discord at the moment. So we are going to start off with Bryson Hicksonbaugh, our third place finisher for tonight. Bryson, sir, can you get a read on me?
Yep, I got you guys.
Bryson, you had an incredible race tonight with a ton of talented drivers and a bunch of familiar faces that we have all seen here. If you are familiar with the 3-Wide TV series, Bryson, what were your kind of thoughts going into tonight's race, and what were you expecting?
I was just looking to have a fun time in these cars. It's a lot different than the Cup cars that I'm used to, that a lot of these guys are used to. So we were all kind of in a learning experience there, trying to figure out what was going on. It was a little bit rough practicing and getting ready for this, but we all did a really great job in the race there. Had just the one caution. Adam spun just after halfway, and we threw a caution there for that. And then just everybody's going through there. I felt like the race went really well without stages, having a lot of tire strategy there. Guys short pitting, long pitting. I think Casey even had one less stop than the rest of us and got a top 5, so he's doing really good.
As you mentioned, preparation about halfway through this race when that caution took hold. Did you think that was gonna snowball things a little bit? It definitely shook up the running order a bit. Did you change your strategy at all going into the last part of the race after that?
Yeah, it kind of screwed me up because then I was forced into what I had to do for tires. I had short pitted all the guys I was ahead of, so I had to stop on that caution. I would have preferred to stay out, and I didn't have any sets left at the end of the race, so I knew that one set after the caution, that was for my fuel to get to the end. So I was kind of put in the box, but it worked out well, I guess. Third, would have liked to have been up at the front, but didn't quite get there with those guys. Didn't have the long run speed they had.
You were one responsible for putting a majority of this race together. We kind of want to keep you up here for the rest of the interviews, and that, if that's okay. But really, do you have any shout-outs to bring to the attention of the audience, and then any plans for the future as far as doing any more of these?
Yeah, I'd just like to give a shout-out to all the guys that joined and put on a great race here. Like this was a very clean race that we put together with a lot of new guys. A lot of familiar faces, but about half the guys I'd never raced with before, had no idea, and we all did a great job tonight. I'm not entirely sure we're going to do more of these. I'd like to, but you never know with timings and schedules in the future, but we'll have to see.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Bryson, thank you very much for having us on. Thank you very much for putting this together. It's been an absolute blast. And looking forward to seeing more of you in 100% Cup and anything else you're into.
Yep. Thanks, you guys, for broadcasting this.
Absolutely. All right. Mason, you want to bring up one Casey Carrington?
Absolutely. Let's bring up, we're going to do things a little bit out of order here tonight. We're going to bring up Casey Carrington, who finished out 4th place tonight. Casey, sir, do you have a read?
Yes, I do.
All right, Casey, you had quite the performance here tonight. We had drivers all mentioning that 37 was looking quite impressive out on track tonight. Even some drivers saying that you had the fastest car. You know, it seemed like you had the race in the bag there for a little bit, and we had drivers kind of swapping all over the place as far as position. What was kind of your thoughts coming into tonight's race, and are you satisfied with a 4th place finish for tonight?
I mean, yeah, I guess I did have the race in the bag that first run, and a giant hole ripped in the bottom of the bag, and it all kind of fell apart. That's that seems to pretty much be my MO. I mean, I haven't lost a whole lot of wins in the pits, but I've definitely lost a lot of finishes that I should have had, and it's hard to say. I mean, Raymond, he was so fast. I felt like I could have held him off that first stint, so it would have been interesting to see what would have happened. But yeah, I just made a mental error there coming in for the first pit stop, and the back end came around and I caught it a bit, and I thought that was going to be the big challenge of the race, and then I happened to look up and I'm like, all right, I'm running 55. I was like, wait, 50? And then by the time I realized I was 5 miles an hour too fast, I already got the penalty, and that was a 40-second stop and hold, and that I spent the rest of the race trying to make that up, and it's I mean, I'm glad I was able to battle back for the top 5, but it's definitely going to be a disappointing one thinking about it the next couple of days.
Yeah, especially, I mean, you had the fastest car in the last part of the race too. I think may have been the race may have been about 20 laps too short for you to catch the rest of the pack up front. What was your strategy coming out of that last pit stop? Were you just trying to run it as hard as you possibly could, seeing how far you could get, or did you kind of realize you were kind of shoehorned in at that point?
Yeah, I mean, coming into the final pit cycle, I figured I had if I executed well, which that's always tough for me in the pits, obviously, but I felt like if I did everything right, I'd have a shot at, at least second place. And then I stayed out too long. That was my issue. I didn't want to pit too early and have old tires at the end, but I think if I'd put it maybe 5, 6, 7 laps later, earlier, I would have had a much better chance. I just ran out of time. I mean, I think I was catching Bryce in there at the end, but it's just, another 10 laps, or like I said, if I'd pitted earlier, I think I would have had a good shot at the top 3, but, I can't be upset. I mean, to be a lap down for about half the race and be able to battle back to 4th, that's, you can't complain about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Hugh, do you have the shout-outs real quick before we let you go?
Yeah, shout out to my buddy Nick. He's my teammate in the Friday night league that we race in. He showed up tonight and helped me out a lot, especially with making the pit calls and all that with the fuelage and all. I don't run race labs or anything like that, so he's kind of got to be my crew chief while he's racing himself. But yeah, shout out to him. Shout out to everybody that organized this event. I mean, this is a really cool race. I love this car. It's my favorite stock car, really my favorite oval car in iRacing, and it's a lot of fun. I like longer races like this. If they do any more in the future, I definitely would want to sign up for that. And shout out to you guys for broadcasting. I know that always makes any race better, whether it's a hosted event, week race, anything. That always just kind of ups the ante, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to have you around. Thanks for racing. Good race to you, and hopefully you see more of you in the future.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, and that is Casey Carrington, one of the fastest cars on the track today. And speaking of fast cars, let's bring up one Sean Powell for a quick conversation. Sean Powell, you got a copy?
Yep.
Hey, welcome in, sir. Fantastic race for you. Second place finish. And the unofficial winner of DC Spark Hard Charger Award for the most positions gained in the race. Congrats to you. Tell us about your race, how it felt, how the car felt, and where you were at.
The race went pretty well. I was using a whole different gear. I think I was on the 350 gear. Most of these guys, I think, they're on a 325. I'm just experimenting. It hurt me in turns 1 and 2, but helped me in 3 and 4 in the front stretch. But overall, the race went well. No mistakes besides one, and that was on the last pit stop.
Yeah.
And that was pretty. I mean, it was a pretty smooth, uneventful race for me. But it was pretty funny there at last, trying to catch Raymond there at last, and itching up, little by little, and just ran out a lap just a little too short.
You got it to within a second, so that was pretty impressive. Mason, you got anything for Powell?
Yeah, absolutely, Sean. Now, it seemed like that 28, it had some magic in it here tonight, having worked your way up 11 positions, I think, from the last time we went to pit road. Sean, it seemed like you were itching to get out into the front of the field and finish out tonight with a first place podium finish. What was kind of hindering you from being able to do that here tonight? It seemed like you had everything in the car to be able to do it. It just seemed like just cars on track just seemed to kind of hinder you from being able to do that.
Well, if my car was a little better on entry, maybe I could have done it with my mistake on pit road, but ultimately, the pit road mistake, and that easily cost me like 2 seconds. Easily. So, if you factor that in, what's that like? You know, I would have been a lot closer, how I shall say.
Yeah, absolutely, Sean. Now, having finished out second tonight and having a great race tonight, 200 laps here at Chicagoland, is there anyone watching at home or anyone back at the homestead that you'd like to give a shout out to or thank before we let you go tonight and celebrate?
I just want to give a shout out to my teammates in phase 2 and give a shout out to y'all for broadcasting the race. I gotta go back and check it out myself. Thanks to Bryson for hosting it. I don't know if there's gonna be any more or not, but I'm assuming there will be, but we shall see.
Okay. Well, appreciate the time. Appreciate the post-race interview and a fantastic race for Sean Powell. Again, unofficial winner of the DC Spark Hard Charger Award for most positions gained. Thank you very much, and we will talk to you a little bit later.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And last but not least, one more coming in, RJ Root. You got a copy, sir?
Yeah, I got you guys.
Absolutely. First of all, congrats on the race. That was a fantastic run from you for a majority of the race. Most laps led, also the most important lap led. As you pull out the win, how was your race going in? What were you thinking? And then how long did it take you to get comfortable in that car?
We came into this race with borderline zero confidence.
That's quite
okay.
after a race.
So yeah. So I'm used to being like a top 5 car in 100%. So I was like, all right, you know, it's a different car. Maybe I can maybe be like a 3rd place car at best. I wasn't very comfortable in the car. Just worked on it a little bit in the practice, and we went into the race, and I was thinking, comparing qualifying times, that I was going to be slow, and we had like a 3rd place car, and just everything kind of fell into our hands with all the different pit strategies. With I forget who it was that got the speeding penalty. You know, everything kind of just worked out and laid it out for us, and just had to have a mistake-free race.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely seemed to be that way as far as the pit strategies and kind of how that played out for everyone out in the front of the field. And Raymond, having watched you throughout the race, it kind of seemed like you were kind of the dark horse to watch throughout the race. You found yourself kind of just in the front of the field, kind of in the pack, just working things a little bit, and it just seemed like after every green flag pit stop that we made, you seemed to just work your way further and further up the field until eventually you just found yourself out in the lead lap, and you were leading the race for the entire time. Once you got to that point, what was kind of going through your head, and were you kind of expecting more cautions to come out, or what was kind of your expectations once you were the car to beat?
Once we got up to the front, we were really hoping that the race would just go caution free all the way to the end, and so we were throwing a lot of adjustments to the car because we knew that everyone was faster than us on the long run. I was the fastest car for the first 30 laps, but then everyone else was faster than me for the last 30. So we knew that we had to make the car better, and we did the best that we could. And when that one caution came out, my crew chief told me to stay out. and I saw everyone behind me start to peak down. So I said, all right, we're going in. And left us with one set of tires for the last 80 laps. My crew chief told me it was a bad idea, and because he thought that there was going to be another caution. And I honestly thought that there would have been at least a second caution, and I'm very happy that it didn't, because Sean ended up going and pitting really early, in my opinion. I was expecting to pit around like laps 170, 175, and next thing I know, we're pitting on lap 160. And but he pit, so I had to pit the lap after him, or I really felt like I couldn't catch him.
Fair enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any shout outs for you as we go ahead and before we let you go and celebrate a nice win?
I'd like to shout out Bryson for the amazing setup and for hosting this whole event. I'd like to shout out Hawk Simworks, Outcast Sim Paints, and everybody over at SBR and FFR.
Okay, awesome. Well, congrats on an awesome win. It was a really good race to watch. It was fun to see everything kind of especially boil down to the end as you were getting hard charged by Sean Powell back there. But lucky for you, were able to hold on. Looking forward to seeing more good stuff from you in the sim racing world, and enjoy the win.
Awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. And with that I believe is going to queue up things for another night. This has been a fun race all the way through. Mason, any final thoughts before we head out?
Well, Chris, it was fantastic working with you once again. You as well, Carlos, even though people at home cannot hear your voice. It's always great having
we can,
such an
and that's what
excellent
matters.
team. Exactly. It's always great having an excellent broadcast team for these events, and it's always great having an excellent group of drivers coming here and putting on these shows for us. Yeah, Chris, it was great coming here. It was great commentating with you, and I really, really hope that we get to do another one of these. It was really fun.
Yeah, it absolutely was. For Andre Granbush, for Carlos Acosta, and Mason Highball, I'm Chris Curtis saying good night and goodbye from 3 Wide TV. We will see you next time for whatever race tickles your fancy. Check us out on YouTube. Don't forget to hit the follow button, and we will see you at the green flag start for another race. Have a good one.